To understand how an outcast with cursed flames in her veins ended up kneeling beside a dying king, the story had to begin 3 months early on the night Arya still believed she might have a future. Chapter 1. The Girl Who Burned Too Bright. 3 months earlier, Arya had stood in the centre of the Crescent Moon Pack's gathering circle, surrounded by wolves who had watched her grow from a child. She had entered that circle determined to prove she was not dangerous. Instead, she had proven exactly what they feared. Smoke still curled from the blackened wounds carved into the sacred oak when the guards seized her arms. "I didn't mean to do it," Arya gasped. Silver flames climbed her wrists, trembling with every frantic beat of her heart. Around her, the elders retreated as though she carried death beneath her skin. "I swear I was only trying to shift like everyone else." "Enough." Alpha Thorn's command cut through her plea like a blade. He was a stern man, hardened by decades of protecting the pack from famine, rival wolves, and human hunters, yet the look he gave Arya held no strength. Only fear. He stared at her as if she were an explosion waiting to happen. "You are not like everyone else, girl," he said. "You never have been." Her mother was crying openly. Her father stood beside her, but would not lift his eyes. And Maya Arya's beautiful sister with flawless golden fur leaned close enough for her whisper to reach its target. "I told you she was broken. Broken." The words sank into Arya's chest and stayed there, sharp as a splinter beneath the heart. Because perhaps Maya was right. Perhaps the silver fire that appeared whenever Arya's emotions became too strong was never a gift. Perhaps the elders were correct when they called it corruption and mutation proof that something in her bloodline had gone horribly wrong. Normal werewolves felt the moon's pull and surrendered to it. Bone shifted. Skin gave way to fur. Human bodies became powerful creatures of fang and claw. They transformed completely. They became whole. Arya barely shifted at all. And whenever she tried, the fire came instead. Silver flames that burned without consuming flesh. Flames that left strange marks on everything they touched. Flames that made every wolf nearby bare its teeth in instinctive terror. "You have until sunrise," Alpha Thorn declared. Something in his voice might have been regret. But to Arya, it sounded too much like relief. "Take only what you can carry. Travel north into the unclaimed territories. And pray to the moon goddess that whatever lives inside you never follows you back here. Exile." The word tasted like ashes. Her mother packed for her with trembling hands dried meat, a water skin, and an old wool cloak that had once belonged to Arya's grandmother. "I'm sorry," she whispered as tears slid down her face. "I am so sorry, my little girl. If I had known when you were born, if I had seen any sign. It isn't your fault, Mother." Arya fought to keep her voice from breaking. She tried to appear brave, but grief was already splitting her apart, and silver sparks had begun to gather at her fingertips. "I'm the one who is broken." "No!" Her mother seized her shoulders with desperate strength. "You are not broken. You are different. And perhaps being different is not always a terrible thing. Perhaps it only means you were created for something none of us can understand yet." They were beautiful words. They did not stop the pack from watching Arya leave with relief in their eyes. They did not make her father defend her. They did not make Maya turn around to say goodbye. At 19 years old, Arya walked alone into the wilderness, convinced she would not survive the winter. The northern lands were called the unclaimed territories for good reason. No pack wanted them. The ground was too frozen. The storms were too violent. The forests were ancient, crowded with creatures that had existed long before wolves began drawing borders across the earth. Even humans stayed away, inventing stories of ghosts and monsters to explain why hunters entered those woods and never returned. Arya soon learned that not all those stories were false. Things watched her from between the trees. Their eyes shone in colours nature should not have made. Their cries travelled through the forest at frequencies that made her bones ache. Whenever they came too close, her silver fire surfaced in silent warning. Yet none of those creatures attacked. They would approach, pause, study her, then slowly retreat, as though they recognized something inside Arya that she herself could not name. She tried not to wonder what that meant. During the second week of her exile, she discovered an abandoned trapper's cabin. Half the roof had collapsed. Moss swallowed the walls. Wind entered through cracks wide enough to see the snow outside, but the stone fireplace still worked, and the wooden door could be barred from within. The cabin became her refuge, her prison, her home. At first, she hunted terribly. Her arrows missed. Her traps failed. Hunger, however, proved to be a far better teacher than pride. Soon she could catch rabbits. On rare, fortunate days, she brought down a deer. She also taught herself to live with the fire. Control was still beyond her, but acceptance was not. On the coldest nights, Arya let silver flames glide over her arms and shoulders. They warmed her without burning. They moved with her sorrow, her fear, and her anger like another heartbeat beneath her own. Then she learned the cruelest lesson of all. She learned how to be alone. Wolves were not created for solitude. They survived through connection, hierarchy, touch, scent, and the invisible bond of the pack. Losing that bond felt like losing part of her body. Arya often woke in darkness, gasping and reaching for a presence that no longer existed. Sometimes she wondered whether loneliness would kill her before the wilderness did. Then winter descended in full force. The cold became merciless. Snow buried familiar paths. Wind clawed through every weakness in the cabin walls. Survival demanded so much of her that there was little time left for grief. Until the howling began. She first heard it 3 nights before she found the wolf. The sound sliced through the frozen air raw, furious, filled with pain. It was not the call of a wolf searching for its pack. It was the cry of something being hunted. Something fighting desperately to remain alive. Arya barred the cabin door and told herself to ignore it. The howl returned the following night. Weaker. Closer. On the 3rd night, it came again, barely more than a broken echo through the trees. Then it stopped. The silence that followed was worse than the screaming. Arya repeated that it was not her concern. Whatever bled beyond those walls had nothing to do with her. She was in exile with barely enough strength to preserve her own life. The last thing she needed was to step into another creature's nightmare. But a memory rose inside her. Her grandmother's voice. Soft. Sad. The gift of healing is also a curse. It'll flame. Once you know someone is suffering, you cannot unknow it. And when you possess the power to help but choose to turn away, that choice follows you forever. Her grandmother had been one of the finest healers the Crescent Moon Pack had ever known. She had also been the only person who looked at Arya's fire without fear. She had looked at it with recognition. You have her eyes, Arya's mother had once whispered when Arya was very young. My mother's eyes. I hoped, I prayed you would inherit nothing else. Arya had not understood those words then. Now she did. At dawn on the 4th day, she fastened her grandmother's hunting knife to her belt, wrapped herself in her thickest furs, and entered the forest in search of the dying creature. She found blood first. Dark drops stained the snow and formed a trail leading farther north. There was too much of it. Whatever had left that path should already have been dared. Arya followed anyway. The deeper she travelled, the darker the forest became. Trees pressed together until their branches formed a roof above her, swallowing nearly every trace of daylight. The air felt charged. Rom. Like the breathless moment before lightning struck. Then she entered a small clearing and saw him. The wolf lay beneath a fallen tree, partly concealed by snow and broken branches. He was enormous, at least twice the size of any wolf Arya had ever encountered. His fur was entirely black, without a single pale marking, except for the blood saturating his side. His body shook violently. Fever. Infection. Death drawing near. Arya stopped breathing. She should have fled. Even wounded, the wolf radiated authority and danger. He was not merely a predator. He was the creature every other predator feared. The shadow wolf from the stories. The monster no hunter dared pursue. An instinct she could not explain pulled her one step closer. The wolf's eyes opened. Amber light pierced the gloom, bright as sunrise and far too intelligent. His gaze caught hers and held it. "Easy," Arya whispered, her voice rough after weeks of speaking to no one. "I won't hurt you." His lips lifted from his teeth. A growl rolled from his chest, but it was weak fading before it could become a true threat. He was dying in front of her. This terrifying, magnificent creature was bleeding into the snow, and Arya was likely the only living soul for miles who possessed any chance of saving him. Again, a grandmother's warning returned. If you have the power to help, and choose not to— Damn it, Arya breathed. She dropped to her knees beside him while every survival instinct screamed for her to run. Up close, the damage was even worse. Deep cuts crossed his ribs. One hind leg was torn open. Bone had been damaged beneath the flesh. Then Arya smells something bitter in the blood. Something unnatural. Poison. Her fire rose at once, brightening beneath her skin. Someone had not merely attempted to kill this wolf. They had ensured he would remain dead. "This is going to hurt," Arya warned, though she doubted he understood human speech. "You may try to bite me. But if you want to live, you must trust me for 1 minute. Can you do that?" His amber eyes narrowed. He studied her. Then, impossibly, the wolf became still. It was not surrender. It felt like a decision. He was choosing to trust her. Arya refused to think about how strange that was. She pressed both palms over the largest wound and released the control she had held around her power for 3 painful months. Silver fire burst from her hands. It entered the wolf without burning him. The flames surged. They found poison in the blood, infection beneath torn flesh, splintered bone, damaged muscle. Arya felt her power flow through his body like a river discovering its path hot, brilliant, and frighteningly strong. The wolf went rigid. A howl ripped from his throat. Pain. Shock. And beneath both recognition. Arya held on while her own strength began to disappear. The fire demanded more than she had ever given. She had never healed a creature this large, never driven her power so deep. But she could not stop. If she stopped, he would die. And for reasons she could not explain, that had become unbearable. "Fight," she gasped. Heat poured from her palms while sweat froze against her face. "Come on." "Live." The wolf's gaze remained fixed on hers. For one impossible instant, Arya saw something human in those amber depths, something that understood every sacrifice she was making. Her healing fire surged a final time. White. Blinding. Absolute. She felt the poison break apart. Felt torn wounds close. Felt shattered places begin to mend. Life returned to the body beneath her hands. Then the flames consumed the last of Arya's strength and darkness swallowed her. When she opened her eyes again, she was staring at a ceiling she did not recognize. No, not a ceiling. Canvas. A tent. Arya sat upright so quickly that the world tilted. Her heart slammed against her ribs, and silver fire sparked instantly across her fingertips. Where was she? How had she come here? The final thing she remembered was the black wolf. She searched the tent for him. Instead, she found a man. He sat in the far corner, utterly still, watching her with amber eyes that glowed even in the dimness. He was beautiful in the way a drawn blade was beautiful, all hard lines, quiet violence, and controlled power. Dark hair fell beyond his shoulders. His face seemed carved from stone. Even while seated, his body carried the strength of something built for war. His clothing was simple and black, but unmistakably expensive. Silver rings covered several of his fingers, each bearing marks of rank and authority. Arya had seen him before. Her mind returned to the previous year, to the annual gathering of the Northern Pacts. The Alpha King had presided over territorial disputes while the strongest alphas in the region lowered their heads before him. Arya had been no one that day. Only another young wolf in the crowd, trying to disappear while nervous silver sparks crawled beneath her skin. But she had seen him. Everyone had. Chaol Stormborn, ruler of the Northern Territories, a legend wearing a man's body. The king who had sentenced 3 wolves to exile for challenging his rule, and now he sat only a few feet away from her alive, healed and terrifying. "You, Arya," whispered. "You kept me alive," Chaol finished, his voice low and rich as dark honey. "And yes, I am alive because of you." He rose. Every instinct in Arya screamed at her to flee, but she was trapped between him and the tent wall. Even if she had found a path, her weakened legs would never have carried her far. Chaol crossed the distance in 2 silent strides. He moved like a predator, smooth, patient, and lethal. When he crouched before her, Arya forgot how to breathe. "What is your name?" he asked. Her thoughts raced. Should she lie? Would he remember seeing her at the gathering? Would he recall the request her pack had submitted before sending her away? "I can hear your heartbeat," Chaol said, faint amusement touching his expression. "You are terrified of me now, yet you showed no fear when you knelt beside a dying wolf in the snow." His eyes narrowed. Why? The wolf could not ask questions. Arya answered before caution could stop her. Something close to a smile touched Chaol's mouth. "True." He tilted his head and examined her so intensely that Arya felt he could see through her skin. "There is silver fire in your veins. I felt it when you healed me. That power is rare. I am aware. And you live alone in the unclaimed territories." His gaze sharpened. "Exiled, I assume. No wolf chooses this place unless every other choice has been taken from her." Arya's jaw tightened. "Does this interrogation have a purpose?" "Yes." Chaol reached for her. Before Arya could pull away, he took her hand and brushed his thumb across her palm, directly over the place where her fire burned hottest. "I want to understand why the moon goddess sent a cursed, exiled little wolf to preserve the life of a king. I am not cursed." The denial came fast and furious, even though Arya had called herself that more times than she could count. "And I did not save you because of fate or some grand design. You were dying. I could help, so I helped. Just like that. Just like that." Chaol watched her for a long moment. Then a short, humorless laugh escaped him. "Do you know how many wolves would have watched me die? How many would have celebrated after finding the great Alpha King bleeding helplessly into the snow?" Arya pulled her hand free. "It sounds as though you have enemies. More than I can count." The darkness in his expression deepened. "The poison was no accident. 3 days ago, someone on my own council ordered my assassination. They hired rogues to hunt me through the forest, used poison to prevent my body from healing, and left me to die slowly." Cold horror moved through Arya. "Your own council. Power persuades people to commit terrible acts." Chaol stood, and his presence seemed to fill the entire tent. "But the attempt failed. I survived. And now I must repay the life debt I owe you." "You owe me nothing," Arya said quickly. The last thing she wanted was to become entangled with the most dangerous alpha in the north. I helped because I had the ability. Nothing more. We are even." "No," Cale replied softly. Amber fire burned in his eyes. "We are not." He moved toward the entrance, then stopped. When he looked back, something in his face stole the air from Arya's lungs. Possession. Recognition. Destiny closing chains around a future she had never chosen. "Your name," he said again. This time, Arya found no reason to refuse. "Arya," she whispered. "Arya for Ashbourne." Cale's eyes widened by the smallest degree. He knew that name. "Ashbourne," he repeated slowly. "The bloodline that was believed extinct." Arya's heart stopped. "I do not know what you mean." The lie was transparent. They both knew it. Then Cale smiled a real smile this time. Sharp. Dangerous. Hungry with discovery. "Yes, you do." His gaze moved over her as though the answer to an ancient mystery stood before him. "And that Arya Ashbourne changes everything." He left the tent before she could respond. "Rest," his voice carried back through the canvas. "Recover your strength. When you are ready, we will have a very interesting conversation about who you truly are." Arya remained motionless. Her thoughts spun. Silver fire crackled beneath her skin, answering fear, confusion, and something far more dangerous. Hope. She had saved the Alpha King, and in doing so, she had set something into motion that could never be undone. The girl exiled for being too dangerous had captured the attention of the most dangerous wolf alive. This was not the end of her exile. It was the beginning of something far greater. Chapter 2. When darkness wears a crown. Arya did not sleep. How could she? Every time her eyes closed, she saw Cale's amber gaze studying her as if she were a mystery he intended to tear apart piece by piece. Ashbourne. The name circled endlessly through her thoughts. He had spoken it like a man opening a grave that should have remained sealed. Someone had placed a bedroll inside the tent and covered it with thick furs carrying the scent of pine, wood smoke, and something unmistakably male. Arya lay beneath them, trying to understand how one act of mercy had shattered the careful emptiness of her exile. The tent was unnaturally warm despite the winter raging outside. She could see no brazier, no fire, no heated stones. Magic had likely been woven directly into the canvas. This was no ordinary camp. It carried the quiet signs of royal wealth, the kind of comfort and protection only an Alpha King could summon in the middle of nowhere. Beyond the fabric walls, voices spoke in low, urgent tones. Conversations stopped whenever footsteps approached too closely. Guards. Perhaps they were there to prevent her escape. Perhaps they were there to make certain no one reached her. Neither possibility brought comfort. Arya slowly sat up and tested her body. Healing Cale had drained her far more deeply than expected, but strength had begun to return. Her legs trembled. Her head still felt light. Yet she was no longer helpless. Silver fire moved restlessly beneath her skin. It always behaved that way when fear or anxiety took hold, a second pulse beating alongside her heart. She needed to leave. That much was obvious. Whatever Cale Stormborn wanted from her, it would not be simple. Men like him did nothing without motive. Every kindness carried strategy. Every question concealed another question. Arya had spent her life surrounded by people who saw her as a dangerous object to control. A tool. A weapon. A problem. She would not allow an Alpha King to add his name to that list. She pushed herself to her feet and moved quietly toward the entrance. If she reached the tree line quickly enough, she could disappear. The forest had been her prison for 3 months, but it had also taught her every path, every hollow, every place where scent vanished beneath frozen water or heavy pine. I would not do that. Arya spun around. Her heart leapt into her throat. Cale stood in the shadows at the rear of the tent, so motionless that she had failed to notice him. How long had he been there? More importantly, how had she not sensed him? Would not do what? She asked, forcing steadiness into her voice. Run. He stepped into the dim light. He had changed clothes, though he still wore black. A heavy fur-lined coat covered his shoulders. Knives rested at both hips, and a sword crossed his back. He looked less like the wounded man she had dragged from death and more like the warrior king every northern wolf feared. "You would not travel 300 yards before my guards found you," he said. "Then I would have to explain why I am sheltering a runaway exile. That would invite questions I am not yet prepared to answer. I am not your prisoner." The words sounded less convincing than Arya wanted. "No." Chaol approached with slow, predatory grace. "You are not a prisoner. You are my guest. There is usually a difference. There is. Guests are allowed to leave, and guests are usually safe." He stopped several feet away. His amber eyes held hers without mercy. "You saved my life, Arya. Whoever wanted me dead now has an excellent reason to kill you as well. So you will remain here, where I can protect you, until I decide how to deal with the danger surrounding us." Anger struck through her exhaustion. "I do not need your protection. I survived alone in these woods for 3 months. Against rabbits and deer, perhaps." Chaol's expression hardened. "The wolves who poisoned me are not starving animals. They are trained assassins. They hunted me for 3 days, and they are still searching for proof that I survived." Arya's stomach tightened. "You believe they will find this camp?" "I know they will." His jaw flexed. "I left them a trail. Not enough to make my intentions obvious, but enough to guide them here. I want them to believe I am still injured, still weak." Cold fury entered his eyes. "When they attack, I will learn who on my council decided I had become disposable." "That is not a plan," Arya whispered. "That is suicide." "No." His voice became quiet. "That is justice." He studied her for a moment. "But you are correct about the danger. That is why you will remain behind my guards, inside this tent, where no one can touch you. Because I saved your life and created a debt. Because you are valuable." The intensity of the answer silenced her. Chaol moved closer. Arya retreated until her back touched the canvas wall. There was nowhere else to go. She stood trapped between thin fabric and the most powerful predator in the Northern Territories. Her fire rose instinctively. Chaol's gaze dropped to the silver light gathering beneath her skin. "That power in your veins, it destroyed poison that should have killed me within hours. I have never seen anything like it." His voice lowered. "I have never felt anything like it." He raised one hand slowly, allowing her every chance to refuse. Arya should have moved. She did not. His fingers touched the inside of her wrist, directly over her racing pulse. Silver flames erupted along her arm. Arya gasped. Chaol did not flinch. He did not release her. Instead, wonder broke through the ruthless control of his expression. "There," he murmured. "Magnificent." "Stop." The word left Arya without force. Her fire had never refracted this way to another person. The flames did not attack him. They reached toward him, circling his fingers as if they recognized something essential, as if they wanted to return to him. "Tell me about the Ashbourne bloodline," Chaol said. His voice had become dangerously intimate. "Tell me why your family was believed dead. I do not know what you are talking about." Her heartbeat betrayed the lie. "Yes, you do." His thumb traced a slow circle over her wrist, where the silver light burned brightest. "Your grandmother was a healer, one of the most powerful the Northern Territories ever produced. She could purge poison, break curses, and pull wolves back from death if she reached them soon enough." Arya's breath shortened. How could he know? She carried fire in her veins, Cale continued, the same fire that lives in you. He never looked away. 30 years ago, she spent every fragment of her strength saving a pack from a plague that should have destroyed them. When she died, everyone believed the Ashbourne gift died with her. No heirs. No one left to inherit her power. Perhaps everyone was right, Arya whispered. Yet here you are. Cale's smile held the sharpness of a blade. Exiled because your own pack feared you. Sent into the wilderness to die only to save a king. I did not know you were a king. I know. I saw a dying creature and chose to help. That is all. Is it? He leaned nearer. Close enough for Arya to feel the heat of his body. Close enough for her to see gold scattered inside his amber eyes. I believe the moon goddess has a cruel sense of humour, he said. I believe she placed you in my path for a reason. And I believe some part of you felt it the moment you touched me. He was right. The truth frightened her more than his weapons or his title. When her fire had entered Cale's body, something inside Arya had shifted. A lock had turned. A sealed door had opened onto something vast, ancient, and unavoidable. For one brief moment, she had felt completely seen. Nothing had ever been more dangerous. I do not believe in destiny, she whispered. Neither did I. Cale's hand moved from her wrist to her jaw, guiding her face upward. But I believe in survival. I believe in power. And I believe you and I may become very useful to one another, Arya Ashbourne. I am not a weapon for you to wield. No. His answer was immediate and deadly serious. You are far more than a weapon. You are a healer capable of destroying poison my court mages could not touch. You carry silver fire that responds to me as though it has found its home. And you are the final living heir of a bloodline the world believed extinct. His thumb moved across her cheekbone. Arya hated the way her body softened toward the touch. You may be the answer to a prayer I did not know I was offering, Cale said. His gaze darkened. Or you may be the beginning of something that tears my entire world apart, and if I am the second... Silver fire crackled between them. Cale smiled, showing teeth. Then we burned together. A howl shattered the night. Cale's head snapped toward the sound. Every muscle in his body tightened. His hand fell from Arya's face to the knife at his hip in one seamless motion. Stay here. He was already turning toward the entrance. Absolutely not. Arya followed. Cale whirled, alpha power flashing in his eyes. Arya, if your assassins have arrived, you will need every advantage available. She held his stare despite the instinct demanding that she expose her throat in submission. And I am likely the only person in this camp who can heal you if they poison you again. For a long moment, Cale said nothing. Then he laughed brief, sharp, and honestly surprised. You were either very brave or extremely foolish. Probably both. Fine. He produced another knife and pressed the handle into her palm. You stay behind me. If I order you to run, you run. Understood. Arya nodded. They both knew she was lying. They emerged from the tent into chaos. A dozen tents formed a defensive circle around the clearing. Guards had been stationed between them, but half now lay motionless in the snow. The survivors fought desperately against wolves that moved like living shadows. 5, no 6. All enormous. All attacking with the perfect coordination of trained killers. At the center of the violence stood a woman watching with cold satisfaction. She possessed the beauty of winter-pale blonde hair, sharp features, and white furs that almost erased her against the snow. Only her eyes revealed what she truly was. They were filled with malice. When Cale appeared, her lips curved into a poisonous smile. Lo, husband. Arya's stomach dropped. Husband. Cale became completely still. Seraphine, did you truly believe I would not find you? The woman asked. Her voice carried across the clearing like a blade. Did you imagine you could survive my poison and quietly disappear? I should have known. Cale's voice turned colder than the snow. Only you would be arrogant enough to supervise my murder personally. Arrogant. Seraphine laughed, and the sound was like glass breaking. No, darling. Strategic. You were approaching the truth. You had begun to understand what we were preparing. So I removed the obstacle. We. Cale tightened his hand around the hilt of his sword. Who else is involved? How far does this betrayal reach? Far enough that when I am finished, no Stormborn king will remain on the northern throne. Then Seraphine noticed Arya. Curiosity twisted into ugliness across her perfect face. And who is the little creature you have hidden in your tent? Did you replace me so quickly? Rage rolled from Cale in silent waves. She is none of your concern. Oh, but she is. Seraphine's smile widened. If she matters to you, she becomes leverage. And leverage must be removed. Her eyes settled on Arya. Nothing personal, sweetheart. She lifted one hand. Every shadow wolf turned toward Arya at once. The clearing erupted. Cale drew his sword and moved to intercept them. The remaining guards rallied around their king, placing their bodies between him and the assassins. Arya stopped thinking. Instinct took control. Silver fire exploded from her body. Light flooded the clearing like a second sun. Flames poured from her hands, her arms, every inch of her skin. They did not consume the tents or scorch the snow. They protected. A wall of silver rose around Arya and Cale. The shadow wolves struck it and recoiled with cries of pain and confusion. Seraphine's face lost all colour. Impossible, she breathed. That fire that is. Ashborn flame, Cale finished. Dark satisfaction filled his voice. He stood beside Arya with blood dripping from his sword. When he looked at her, fierce possession burned in his eyes. Do you still believe she is only leverage? Seraphine's expression twisted with rage. Kill them. Kill them both. The assassins attacked again. But now they hesitated. They were afraid. Arya's fire had wounded them in a way ordinary flame never could. It had reached beyond flesh and touched something inside their wolf souls. For the first time, those killers remembered what it meant to be prey. Cale exploited that fear without mercy. He moved like death-given form. His blade found throats and hearts with a ruthless precision. Yet he never moved far from Arya. Never left her undefended. Whenever an assassin approached too closely, silver fire lashed outward and drove it back. They fought back to back. They had never trained together, yet their movements matched with impossible ease. Cale anticipated the reach of her flames. Arya knew where his blade would fall before he moved. Their bodies understood one another without instruction. It should have been impossible. It felt like destiny. Within minutes, 4 shadow wolves lay dead. A 5th limped back toward Seraphine, badly wounded and trembling. The final assassin turned and fled into the trees. Seraphine stared at the bodies with fury and disbelief. "This is not finished," she snarled as she backed toward the forest. "Do you believe one little fire witch can save you? Do you think she can stop what is coming?" Cale raised his bloodied sword and aimed its point at her heart. "I think you should run," he said softly, "while you still can." Seraphine's eyes narrowed. Then she turned and vanished into the darkness, her white furs swallowed by the snow. Cale did not pursue her. Silence settled over the clearing. Only broken breaths and the fading crackle of Arya's flames remained. Then Cale turned. The look in his eyes stole the air from her lungs. "You," he said slowly, as if each word carried the weight of an oath, "are extraordinary." Arya's knees gave way. The rush of battle abandoned her, leaving only the crushing exhaustion of releasing so much power at once. She had never created a protective wave before. Until tonight, she had not even known it was possible. Chaol caught her before she touched the ground. His arms closed around her waist and pulled her against his chest. "I have you," he murmured into her hair. "I have you." Arya wanted to resist. She wanted to preserve her independence, her distance, the walls that had kept her alive. But she was exhausted. He was warm, and for the first time since her exile, she did not feel alone. So she allowed herself to lean against him until the world stopped spinning. "Your wife tried to murder you," she mumbled against his chest. "Former wife," Chaol corrected. His voice vibrated through her. The marriage was political. It ended 2 years ago, though the formal dissolution was never completed. She appears unhappy about that. She is angry because I refused to give her power. Chaol's hold tightened. She wanted the throne, the councils, and control over the territories. I eventually saw what lived beneath the beautiful face. His hand cradled the back of Arya's head with surprising gentleness. "I should have killed her when I had the opportunity, before she gathered allies, before she attempted to steal everything my family built. Why did you not?" Chaol remained silent for several heartbeats. "Because I am not a monster, Arya. No matter what the legends claim." She leaned back enough to study him. Pain and exhaustion had escaped the control of his features. Up close, she could see old scars crossing his skin, memories of battles won and losses that had never fully healed. She saw the burden in his shoulders. He was not only a king. He was a man who had spent his entire life fighting to survive, fighting to protect what belonged to him, fighting alone. Just like her. "She will return," Arya said. "I know. With more assassins. More poison. More schemes. She will not stop until one of us is dead. What will you do?" Chaol looked down at her. Something in his expression softened. "I will fight back. I will uncover every traitor on my council. And I will reclaim my throne." His hand rose to her face, his thumb brushing slowly over her cheek. "You will help me." "Why would I?" Arya whispered the question even though she already knew his answer. "Because you are tired of hiding." His voice lowered, intimate and irresistible. "You were tired of being told that you were too dangerous, too powerful, too much. Somewhere beneath all that fear, you desire the same thing I do. And what is that? To burn down the world that rejected us and build something better from its ashes." Chaol's smile was beautiful and merciless. "To stop running, to stop apologizing for existing, to claim the power that has always belonged to you and make everyone who underestimated you regret it." Arya's breath caught. He was right. Gods help her, he was entirely right. She was tired of hiding, tired of fearing herself, tired of treating her fire as a shameful secret instead of the miracle it might be. And this dangerous, complicated, infuriating king saw her, not as a burden, not merely as a weapon. He saw someone valuable, someone who deserved to occupy space in the world, without apology. "If I agree," Arya said carefully, "what do I receive?" Triumph flashed in Chaol's eyes. "Everything I can offer. Protection. Purpose. A place where your power is considered an advantage instead of a purse." He leaned close enough for his breath to touch her lips. "When I have reclaimed my throne and destroyed those who betrayed me, the final choice will be yours. Stay or leave." His gaze did not waver. "Either way, you will never hide again." The offer was more than good. It was everything Arya had feared to hope for. Which meant there had to be a cost. There was always a cost. "What are you not telling me?" Chaol's smile turned almost approving. "You are perceptive." He withdrew slightly, his expression becoming serious. The Ashbourne line was not merely powerful. It was legendary. Your grandmother could do more than heal wounds. She sensed corruption. She burned through poison, curses, and dark magic. Some records claim she could identify betrayal through a single touch. Understanding struck Arya. You want me to expose the members of your council who serve Seraphine. I need you to try. His voice remained steady, but desperation entered his eyes. I cannot trust anyone else. My guards may be compromised. My advisors may have been purchased. Men I call friends may be waiting for the chance to destroy me. His hand tightened around her waist. But you owe no loyalty to anyone in my court. You have no reason to deceive me. If your power works, as I believe it does, you can tell me exactly who remains loyal. And if it does not, Arya challenged. What if I am only a healer? Then I am already dead. Chaol did not soften the truth. And so are the thousands of wolves who depend upon the Stormborn line for protection. The weight of his words settled across Arya's shoulders. He was not asking her to save one life now. He was asking her to help save a kingdom, to leave exile behind and walk directly into assassination, betrayal, and political war, to stop hiding, to begin fighting. Every rational instinct told her to flee. She could disappear into the northern forest, return to her cabin, and forget she had ever touched the Alpha King. But the fire in her blood hummed with recognition, with purpose. When she looked at Chaol, she saw someone who understood the burden of carrying power others feared, someone who knew the cost of standing alone, someone offering her the possibility of becoming more than a curse. One condition, Arya said at last. Chaol lifted an eyebrow. Name it. If I help expose your traitors and protect your kingdom, you will help me uncover the truth about my bloodline. I want to know what happened to my grandmother. I want to know what the Ashbourne power truly is. She refused to lower her gaze. I am tired of not understanding myself, tired of fearing my own fire. If I risk my life for you, I receive answers. Chaol watched her in silence. Then he smiled. Not the cruel smile of a king facing an enemy. A warm, genuine expression that made him even more dangerous. Agreed. He extended his hand, formal as a treaty. Arya placed her palm in his. Silver fire sparked where their skin met. It did not hurt. It did not threaten. It felt right, like two broken pieces finding the place where they belonged. Welcome to my pack, Arya Ashbourne, Chaol murmured. Try not to die before I decide what to do with you. The same to you, your Majesty. Despite the danger, the uncertainty, and the absolute madness of the bargain, something slowly opened inside Arya's chest. Hope. Reckless. Foolish. Dangerous hope. But hope all the same. The girl exiled because of her fire had made a pact with the king. Soon, the world would discover what happened when two dangerous souls stopped running and chose to burn together. Chapter 3. The Scars That Shape U.S. Arya could not sleep after the attack. Chaol had ordered the camp abandoned before Seraphine could return with reinforcements. Even with half the assassins lying dead in the snow, remaining in a location their enemy knew would have been foolish. The surviving guards packed in darkness with disciplined speed. 3 hours later, the group reached a hidden cave system farther north. My father brought me here when I was young, Chaol explained as they moved through passages illuminated by torchlight. He used these caves to teach me how to survive without an army. How to think like prey instead of believing I would always be the strongest predator in the forest. He glanced back at Arya. No one outside the Stormborn line knows this place exists. And you trust me with the secret. His amber eyes shone in the darkness. I trust you more than I trust most of my council. That should probably concern us both. Hours later, Arya sat near the mouth of the cave and watched dawn spill over the frozen forest below. Heat rose through the stone from springs hidden deep beneath the mountain. The cavern should have felt warm. Still, cold remained lodged inside her bones. She kept seeing Seraphine's face. Beautiful. Empathy. Filled with hatred as she gave the order. Kill them both. Arya had killed animals before. Hunger allowed no room for guilt. But during the night, she had fought wolves-thinking beings who had entered the clearing intending to murder her. Her fire had answered them with a violence she had never known it possessed. She stared at her hands, half expecting blood. There was none. Only pale skin and faint silver lines beneath it, glowing whenever her power moved too close to the surface. Unable to sleep, Arya flinched. Flames sparked from her fingertips before she recognized Cale's voice. He stood nearby wearing loose trousers and a simple shirt open at the throat. His dark hair hung freely around his shoulders. Without armor, leather, and weapons, he looked younger, more human, still dangerous. That part never disappeared. I did not mean to startle you. Cale sat beside her on a stone ledge, close enough that their shoulders nearly touched. Although I admit your reflexes are impressive, most wolves train for years before their defenses respond that quickly. Most wolves decide when they shift. Arya said, I barely can. The fire chooses for itself. Does it? He studied her profile. Or does it give you exactly what you need and you simply have not learned to trust it? Arya drew her knees to her chest. You do not understand. I have hurt people with this power. My pack. My family. Then tell me. His voice was quiet. Perhaps exhaustion weakened her defenses. Perhaps it was the memory of Cale fighting beside her without hesitation. Or perhaps she was simply tired of carrying the truth alone. I was 7 the first time it happened, she began. Her words barely rose above a whisper. All the young wolves were gathered for a shifting lesson. It was supposed to be beautiful. Everyone transforming beneath the full moon, howling together, becoming part of something larger. She closed her eyes. I wanted that feeling more than anything. I wanted to belong. When the moon rose and I felt its pull, I reached for it with everything inside me. What happened? Cale asked gently. The fire answered instead. Arya's hands trembled. Silver light flickered across her knuckles. I did not become a wolf. I became something that burned. The other children screamed. The adults tried to restrain me, but the flames kept spreading. 3 of the strongest wolves in the pack had to knock me unconscious. Her throat tightened. When I awakened, the sacred grove had been burned black. 2 elders carried wounds that required weeks to heal. Every person who looked at me saw a monster. Cale remained silent for a moment. You were 7 years old, he said at last. You were experiencing a power no one had taught you to understand. Of course you could not control it. My mother said the same thing. Arya laughed without humour. She promised I would outgrow it, that the fire was only a phase. But it kept returning. Every attempt to shift summoned flames. Every strong emotion made them spark. I became a danger simply by feeling too much. And then they exiled you. Not immediately. She rested her chin on her knees and looked toward the sunrise. They tried to train me. Specialists came from other packs. Majors studied my bloodline. Nothing helped. The fire remained wild. Her voice faltered. Then, 3 months ago, Cale shifted closer. He did not touch her, but his presence was steady and solid. It was Maya's coming-of-age ceremony. Arya continued. My sister was being recognized as an adult member of the pack. Everyone celebrated. I truly was proud of her. She swallowed. But I was jealous too. Maya had always represented everything Arya failed to become: beautiful, strong, perfectly controlled. Her transformation was effortless. Her golden wolf brought pride to the family. I tried not to let anyone see it, Arya said quickly. I smiled. I supported her. Then my father made a speech about how Maya embodied everything a wolf should be. The memory rose with painful clarity, a sudden heat beneath her skin, a desperate attempt to force it down, silver flames exploding outward, her father staring at her in fear, the ancient oak smoking as its bark blackened, Maya screaming through tears, "You are ruining everything. You cannot let me have one night without making it about you." The worst part, Arya whispered, was that she was right. She had destroyed Maya's ceremony, scarred the sacred tree, reminded the entire pack that one daughter was perfect and the other was cursed. Alva Thorne ordered me to leave before sunrise. No one objected, not even my parents. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to release them. She had cried enough for being unwanted, for being too much and never enough. Cale said nothing for a long time. Then he took her hand. Arya's first instinct was to pull away, yet his grip was gentle and unwavering. Silver fire appeared across their joined palms. It did not burn. It simply existed between them, beautiful, strange, and somehow right. "Do you know what I see when I look at you?" Cale asked. Arya shook her head. "I see a woman who survived rejection from everyone who should have protected her. A woman who spent 3 months alone in hostile territory and did not break." His thumb moved over her knuckles, and the flames brightened. "I see someone who found a dying stranger and chose to save him, although walking away would have been safer. I see power great enough to terrify an entire pack and courage strong enough to keep fighting for control after everyone else abandoned her. I am not courageous." Her voice was almost inaudible. "I'm only too stubborn to surrender. Usually those are the same thing." Cale's smile softened. "My father used to say courage is not the absence of fear. It is being terrified and moving forward anyway." Arya finally looked at him in the growing daylight. She saw the exhaustion in his face, the weight of command, the old scars written across his skin. "You are afraid," she realized. Cale did not deny it. Constantly. The confession surprised her. "I am afraid Seraphine will succeed. Afraid I will fail to expose the traitors before they strike again. Afraid everything I built will collapse because I trusted the wrong person." His eyes met hers. "But I fear what happens if I do nothing even more. So you continue fighting." "So I continue fighting." His fingers tightened around hers. "And now you have chosen to fight beside me, which means I need to understand everything, your power, your family, and why wolves still remember your grandmother 30 years after her death." Arya took an unsteady breath. "I know very little. My parents avoided speaking about her. It was almost as if they wanted to erase her. Why? I think they were afraid I had inherited too much. Afraid I would end the same way she did, empty, burned out, and dead before my time. How did she die?" "The official story says she exhausted herself while healing a plague." Arya's eyes narrowed with old suspicion. But official stories are rarely complete. The sickness had appeared 20 years before Arya was born. It swept through the Northern Territories faster than any healer could contain it. Entire packs began to die. Her grandmother travelled from territory to territory, burning the disease from every wolf she touched. The silver flame destroyed the plague, Arya said, but every life she saved cost her part of her own. She weakened with each healing, Cale murmured, and she refused to stop. Arya's voice cracked. At the final pack, she collapsed before she could finish. The fire went dark. She died in the arms of a stranger, far from home. Bitterness entered her words. "And the wolves she saved returned to their lives and forgot her. That is not true." Cale's jaw tightened. "I remember the stories. The flame that walked, the mercy that burned. She remains a legend. Children across the north grow up hearing about the wolf who could burn death away. They hear about a saint, Arya replied. Not a woman so desperate to prove she was not a monster that she killed herself saving people who feared her. She withdrew her hand and wrapped both arms around herself. My mother once told me grandmother spent her whole life trying to convince others that her power was a gift. In the end, all that sacrifice earned her was an early grave. Is that what frightens you? Chaol asked. That you will become her? I'm afraid I already have. The truth escaped before Arya could stop it. I fear I will spend my life proving I am not dangerous, attempting to control something that cannot be controlled and then die alone and forgotten exactly as she did. Silence held the confession between them. Then Chaol laughed. Not with cruelty, not in mockery, with genuine, startled amusement. What? Arya demanded, heat rising to her face. You. Still smiling, he caught her face between his hands and made her look at him. You are frightened that you will die forgotten, yet you do not understand what you have already done. His amber gaze burned into hers. You saved the Elfa King. You defeated trained assassins with a power you barely understand. Now you intend to enter the most dangerous political conflict in the north and expose traitors hiding beside a throne. His smile widened. Whatever happens next, Arya Ashbourne, no one will forget you. That is not comforting. A reluctant smile touched her mouth anyway. It was not meant to comfort you. It was meant to be true. His thumbs brushed her cheekbones. Your grandmother destroyed herself trying to save wolves who feared her. You are different. You will help wolves who already know you are dangerous, wolves who have already rejected you not because you need their approval, but because you decide it is right. How can you know that? Because you saved me. The answer came simply. I was a stranger bleeding into the snow. You had no reason to help and every reason to leave. Yet you knelt beside me and gave me your strength. His voice deepened. That is not what a broken person does. That is what someone with more courage than she knows how to carry does. Something inside Arya cracked. A wall she had built around her heart began to fracture. For the first time since her exile, perhaps for the first time in her life, someone saw her clearly. Not as a curse. Not as a weapon. Not as a problem requiring control. Only Arya. Flawed. Powerful. Worth saving. I do not know how to become what you need, she admitted. Good. Chaol's smile turned wicked. I need you to be nothing except yourself. Dangerous, fire included. He leaned closer, slowly enough that she could retreat. She did not. Instead, Arya found herself moving toward him until his forehead rested against hers. Their breaths mingled. Heat moved between them. I will not allow you to burn out as your grandmother did, Chaol murmured. I will not use you until nothing remains and then cast you aside. Whatever happens between us, I will never ask you to sacrifice yourself for my kingdom, even if refusing means you lose. Even then, his hands moved to her shoulders, holding her steady. Some things matter more than victory. The people who stand beside you should survive long enough to see what they fought for. Arya closed her eyes and leaned into his warmth until the shaking left her hands. She had been alone for so long, cut off from every connection wolves required to feel whole. Now this impossible king offered what she had been afraid to desire. Connection. Purpose. A reason to stop hiding. Tell me about your father, she said softly. You said he trained you here. Chaol remained silent for a long moment. When he answered, his voice was raw. He was a good king. Strong. Fair. He ruled for 40 years without a single uprising. The territories respected him. Many loved him. But he was distant. Chaol turned toward the sunrise. He saw the air before he saw his son. Every moment of my childhood was training and preparation. He taught me to become strong enough for the throne. His jaw tightened. He never taught me to trust. He taught me to use people, to identify threats, to place the kingdom above every personal feeling. That sounds lonely. It was. A bitter smile crossed his face. I learned to consider everyone either an asset or a danger. I kept every person far enough away that no one could wound me. Vulnerability flickered in his eyes. Then he died. I inherited a throne I was prepared to defend and a kingdom I did not understand. He taught me politics, strategy, and war. He never taught me how to connect with those I was meant to lead. "Is that why you married Seraphine?" Arya asked. "Because she was useful." Chaol's expression darkened. "I married her because I was young, arrogant, and foolish. She was beautiful and ambitious. Her family possessed influence I needed." He stopped, then shook his head. "I believed I could control her. I planned to keep her at a distance while using her connections to strengthen my rule." A harsh laugh left him. "She was more patient than I understood. She entered my council slowly, gathered allies, and waited. When she realized I would never give her true authority, she chose to take it. By killing you, quickly, quietly, with enough uncertainty to blame rogues or rival packs." His hands curled into fists. "If she had succeeded, she would have seized the throne, married one of her conspirators, and ruled through him. Everything my family built would have belonged to her. But she failed. Arya said, 'You survived. Because of you.'" Hale turned fully toward her, his eyes blazing. "You did more than preserve my life. You disrupted a coup that has likely taken years to prepare. Now Seraphine knows you exist, which makes me a target. I understood that when she ordered my death. It makes you more than a target." Chaol took her hand again, almost desperately. "You have become a symbol, the outcast who saved the king, the woman standing between Seraphine and the throne. Every enemy I possess will come for you now." The truth settled over Arya like a burial cloth. She had accepted danger in theory. Hearing that the target on her back might never disappear was something else entirely. "You may still leave," Chaol said quietly. "I will not stop you. You never asked to become part of this war." Arya stared at their joined hands and the silver fire moving across them. She remembered her grandmother destroying herself to prove she was not monstrous. She remembered 3 months of silence, loneliness, and shame. Then she remembered the battle the moment she released everything and stopped apologizing for being dangerous. "I'm not running." Her voice was firm. She looked directly into Chaol's amber eyes. "You were right. I am tired of hiding, tired of fearing what I can do. If helping you gives me the chance to understand my power and stop running from it." She squeezed his hand. "Then I am with you completely." Chaol stared at her. Then his smile broke across his face like sunrise, wild, fierce, devastating. "Then we begin planning. Seraphine knows I survived, and she knows I will come for her. She will move quickly to strengthen her position before I can strike. What is the first step?" We return to court. His mind had already shifted into strategy. "I have been missing for 4 days. My advisors will be panicking. Seraphine's allies will be using my absence to spread disorder, weaken confidence, perhaps even declare me dead and demand a succession vote. And they do that if I remain absent long enough." Chaol's expression became hard. "That is why our return must be impossible to ignore. Everyone must see that I am alive, strong, and prepared to destroy whoever attempts to take my throne. And what will you tell them about me?" His smile turned calculating. "The truth. You are a healer with rare bloodline magic. You saved the king. You stand beneath my personal protection. Anyone who threatens you answers directly to me. That will create problems. Good." Chaol rose and pulled her to her feet. "Let the traitors panic over what you may be capable of doing. Let Seraphine spend every hour wondering how to eliminate you. Fear creates mistakes. It was a strong strategy. Still, unease tightened Arya's stomach. What happens if I cannot do what you expect? What if I cannot identify betrayal? Then we discover another way together. Chaol tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. The gentleness of the gesture caught her unprepared. I have faith in you, Arya, even if you have none in yourself. Why? Because I watched what happened when you stopped forcing your power into obedience and trusted it. His hand lingered against her cheek. During the attack, you did not plan. You reacted. Your fire knew what was required. It hurt them, she whispered. Not only their bodies. I felt the flames reach something deeper, something that made them afraid. Exactly. Fierce satisfaction entered Chaol's eyes. Your fire does not merely burn flesh. It touches the soul. It sees beneath appearances. He leaned closer, his voice dropping. If it can reveal fear inside an assassin, imagine what it may reveal inside a liar. Cold, understanding dawned. You believe it can sense corruption. Not only poison in the blood, but deception, betrayal, hidden intention. I believe your grandmother possessed that ability, and I believe you inherited far more than beautiful flames. Chaol's smile became sharp. Every traitor in my court is about to experience a very unpleasant morning. Arya should have been terrified by the responsibility. Instead, something fierce awakened inside her. Her power was not a curse. It was a blade capable of cutting through lies and political masks to expose the truth beneath, and she was finally going to learn how to wield it. When do we leave? At nightfall. We travel under darkness and reach the court by dawn. Chaol's eyes glittered with cold promise. Then we discover who remains loyal and who deserves to burn. Silver fire rose beneath Arya's skin. She was finished hiding. Finished running, finished apologizing for the power in her veins. The girl exiled for her flames was about to enter the Alpha King's court. Gods help anyone who stood in her way. Chapter 4. Silver Flames and Ancient Prophecies. They discovered the shrine by accident. At least, that was what Arya tried to believe. She and Chaol were moving through the caves, preparing for their return to court, when a passage appeared where solid stone should have been. But chance could not explain the pull beneath Arya's skin. Her fire had led her there. This tunnel is not on any map, Chaol said, frowning into the narrow darkness. Torchlight shifted across walls that seemed almost alive. I have known these caves since childhood. This passage should not exist. Perhaps you overlooked it. Arya's voice held no conviction. A vibration moved through her body, matching the rhythm of the silver flame in her veins. Something buried deep within the mountain was calling to her. Not merely calling, recognizing, welcoming her home. We should return, Chaol said. Yet even as he spoke, he stepped forward. The same unseen force drawing Arya had taken hold of him as well. The tunnel opened into a chamber so ancient that the air itself felt older. Symbols covered the stone walls, spirals, wolves, flames, and markings created before any language Arya knew. In the trembling torchlight, the carvings seemed to move, but the altar at the center of the chamber seized all her attention. It was a perfect ring of silver stone, untouched by age or decay. A flame burned in its center. Not red, not gold, silver-white. It produced no smoke and consumed no fuel. It simply existed patient, eternal, waiting. Gods, Chaol breathed. This is a moon shrine. A real one. Arya knew the legends. Moon shrines were places where the moon goddess had once touched the earth, leaving fragments of divine power behind. The veil between worlds grew thin inside them. Prophecies were born there. Destinies were written. But they were supposed to be stories told beside winter fires. They were not supposed to exist inside hidden passages that had not been there before. Look at these carvings. Cale moved toward the wall. I have seen incomplete versions in the Royal Archives, but never symbols this clear. His fingers passed over a spiral that answered with a faint pulse of light. This may be history, or prophecy, perhaps both. Arya barely heard him. The silver flame called without words. It filled her with knowing. Arya, wait. Cale reached for her. Too late. She was already kneeling before the altar, already extending her hand. The instant her fingertips entered the flame, the world shattered into light. A woman stood in a forest of burning trees. Silver fire poured from her palms in endless rivers. Her face was Arya's face, only older and fiercer. Scars crossed her skin, each one carrying the memory of a battle survived. Then a voice spoke, ancient, feminine, vast enough to fill the sky. The flame that walks shall rise when darkness reaches for the throne. She who burns with silver light shall stand between the world and endless night. The vision changed. Hundreds of wolves knelt before a figure covered in silver fire. Their faces held reverence, but fear lived there too. Behind the burning figure, shadows gathered, hungry, waiting. Two paths lie before the burning one. Save the kingdom and lose yourself, or save yourself and watch the kingdom burn. Choose wisely, daughter of ash and flame, for your choice shall echo through eternity. The vision fractured like glass. One final image remained. A crown made of silver fire hovered above Arya's head, beautiful, terrible, waiting to be claimed, waiting to consume her. Arya was thrown backward. Her body struck the stone floor, but strong arms caught her before her head hit. Arya. Cale's face slowly came into focus. Concern widened his amber eyes, mingled with something dangerously close to awe. What happened? Your eyes became pure silver, and the flame. He looked toward the altar. Arya followed his gaze and felt her stomach drop. The eternal fire had doubled in height. Symbols appeared around it, written in flame and hanging in the air like stars. The language should have been dead. Arya could read every word. She who was cast out shall return crowned in silver, she whispered. She who was named cursed shall be named salvation. She who burned alone shall set the world aflame. Cale stared at her. This prophecy is about you. No. Arya scrambled upright and backed away. No, I am not. The flame that walks, Cale said. That was the name given to your grandmother, but these carvings are far older than she was. Then it has been waiting. The realization struck with horror. Waiting for an Ashborn powerful enough, desperate enough, broken enough. Cale turned toward her. The look on his face made Arya want to run. It was not exactly fear. It was the same recognition she had seen in her pack, the knowledge that she was other, something the ordinary world could not contain. You are not broken, he said firmly. He crossed the chamber in 3 strides. You are what you were always meant to be, a weapon. Arya demanded, a tool for the moon goddess to use. Her voice rose as the vision returned to her. I saw bodies beneath my feet, wolves bowing because they feared me, a crown that wanted to devour everything I am. She wrapped her arms around herself, but could not stop trembling. That is not salvation. It is damnation, or a warning. Cale approached slowly. When she did not retreat, he took both her hands. Prophecies are not commands, Arya. They reveal possible roads. They do not remove your right to choose. The voice gave me only 2 choices. Save the kingdom and lose myself, or save myself and let the kingdom burn. Her throat tightened. That is not a choice. It is a trap. Then we refuse it. His grip strengthened. We create a third path. We protect the kingdom and keep you whole. I refuse to believe the moon goddess gave you this power only to watch it destroy you. Arya wanted to trust him. She wanted to believe there was an ending that did not leave her empty and dead like her grandmother. But the vision had felt inevitable. What if I cannot carry this? She asked. What if I am not strong enough? What if becoming what everyone needs breaks me exactly as it broke her? Chaol pulled her into his arms. The embrace should have felt possessive. Instead, it felt like an anchor holding her steady inside a storm. Then you will not do it alone, he murmured against her hair. Your grandmother tried to save everyone by herself. She refused help, refused to let anyone share the weight. He drew back enough to meet her eyes. You have me. I will not allow you to sacrifice yourself for my kingdom. Not now. Not ever. You cannot promise that. Watch me. His smile was fierce and defiant. I have spent my entire life hearing what a king must surrender for the good of his people. I am finished watching good wolves destroy themselves for causes that never valued them. He held her face between his hands. This is what will happen. We return to court. We expose every traitor who reached for my throne. And we do it together. His amber eyes blazed. Not with you as my weapon. Not with you as my sacrifice. We stand as partners, as equals. I am not your equal. You are a king. I am an exile. You are the flame that walks, Chaol interrupted. The fulfillment of a prophecy older than the Stormborn line. You saved my life when anyone else might have left me to die. His voice softened without losing its certainty. If that does not make you my equal, I do not know what could. Arya stared at him. He meant every word. He was not attempting to shape her into something convenient. He was not looking for a more obedient weapon. He saw her, and he believed she deserved a place beside him. The prophecy still says I will have to choose, she said, the kingdom or myself. Then we prove the prophecy wrong. Chaol's answer came without hesitation. We save both. If the moon goddess believes I will quietly watch you destroy yourself for a throne I never asked to inherit, she does not understand me at all. Despite the fear pressing against her chest, laughter escaped Arya. You are insane. Probably. Chaol grinned. But I am also right, and you know it. God's helper he was. The vision had revealed 2 roads. But roads could change. Prophecies could be resisted by people stubborn enough to reject the fate prepared for them. And Arya had always been dangerously stubborn. All right. The decision formed inside her like ice becoming steel. We do it your way. We return to court. We uncover the traitors. We save your kingdom. Then she met his gaze and allowed him to see the strength beneath her fear. But if the final choice truly becomes your throne or my life, I decide. Not you. Not the prophecy. Me. Chaol's jaw tightened. At last, he nodded. Agreed. As long as you promise to think before throwing yourself into death. I promise to think. That was not the entire promise. It is the only one you are receiving. A reluctant smile touched his mouth. I will accept it. Then Chaol pressed a brief kiss to her forehead. Chaste. Gentle. Somehow more intimate than anything he had done before. Come. We must plan our return and decide how to explain that I have risen from the dead with a legendary healer at my side. They turned toward the passage. At the threshold, Arya stopped. The altar flame had returned to its original size. Most of the burning symbols had faded. One line remained. She who burned alone shall set the world aflame. Arya whispered the words once more. Then she noticed another sentence beneath it, so faint it had nearly disappeared. But she need not burn alone. Arya looked at Chaol, the man who had promised to stand beside her even if it meant defying destiny itself. For the first time since the vision, fear was not the only thing inside her. Hope lived there too. Dangerous, foolish, reckless hope. Ready? Cale asked, extending his hand. Arya placed her palm in his. Silver flames danced between them. Ready. They left the moon shrine behind. But the prophecy followed Arya. It would echo each time she used her power, each time she faced a choice. The flame that walks had risen, and the world would never be the same. Chapter 4. The truth burns brightest. They reached the capital at dawn. Arya's first thought was that she had never seen anything so beautiful. Her second was that she had never seen anything so dangerous. The Stormborn fortress rose from the mountainside as though the castle had been cut directly from the rock. Dark granite walls towered above the road. Silver gates caught the first light. Narrow towers disappeared into clouds. This was more than a royal residence. It was a declaration, a monument to centuries of power, and Arya was about to pass through its gates wearing borrowed clothes, carrying a bloodline the court believed extinct, and holding a secret capable of tearing the kingdom open. "Remain close to me," Cale murmured as they approached. He had travelled much of the journey in wolf form, the same enormous black beast Arya had found dying in the snow. Now he walked on 2 legs, every inch the Alpha King. Authority rested on him like armour. His guards arranged themselves around him without receiving a command. Still, Arya felt the tension beneath his control. She saw it in his rigid shoulders and in the way his hand remained near his sword. He was entering a nest of vipers. They both knew it. The silver gates opened before the party reached them. A tall, silver-haired man emerged from the courtyard. He carried himself with the confidence of someone who had spent decades standing near power. His face remained carefully neutral. But when he saw Cale, shock flashed through his eyes. Shock and something else. Arya's fire stirred. "Your Majesty." The man bowed precisely low enough to show respect without surrender. "We feared the worst when you failed to return from your hunt. The search parties found no trace of you. I am certain you were devastated, Councillor Thane." Cale's voice was pleasant. It was also lethal. "Tell me, how long did you wait before demanding a succession vote?" Thane's expression did not change. But Arya felt fear spike through him. His heartbeat accelerated. His breathing altered. Without her permission, Silverfire reached toward him, tasting the air around his body, searching beneath silk words for rot. Arya inhaled sharply. She could feel it. Wrongness. Not poison in the blood, as she had sensed inside Cale. This was deeper. A stain across the soul. The bitter residue of betrayal. "We waited 3 days, as tradition requires," Thane answered smoothly. When the 4th day arrived without word or evidence of survival, the council had to consider the stability of the territories. He spread his hands in practised regret. "A kingdom cannot remain without leadership. Surely you understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly." Cale smiled with all his teeth. "And whom did the council intend to name as my successor?" No candidate had been selected. "Liar." The word struck the courtyard like a whip. Thane stiffened. Everything around them stopped. Guards ceased moving. Servants froze in open doorways. Every watching wolf turned toward the king and his councillor. "Your Majesty," Thane said cautiously, "I do not know what you believe you have discovered, but I know someone in my council hired assassins to hunt me like an animal." Cale's voice dropped into cold danger. "I know they poisoned me with something designed to prevent healing and ensure I died slowly, alone in the wilderness." He stepped closer. Thane flinched. "And I know the only wolves aware of my route, that they were members of my inner circle, my most trusted advisors." Colour drained from Thane's face. "You cannot believe I had any part in Can I not? Kael gestured toward Arya. Every eye in the courtyard shifted to her. This is Ariva Ashbourne, healer, descendant of the flame that walks. The wolf who saved my life after your assassins left me to rot. Whispers moved through the crowd. Arya heard her grandmother's title spoken like a prayer. Recognition spread across faces that had grown up with stories of the legendary healer. She burned the poison from my blood, Kael continued. She kept me alive long enough to discover who would arrive to finish the work. His gaze remained on Thane. Do you know who led the second attack directly to my camp? Silence answered. My wife, Kael said, venom entering the word. Or rather, my former wife, Seraphine, the woman whose loyalty you defended, the woman whose family you insisted would strengthen my throne, the woman currently conspiring to take it. Your Majesty, I swear I knew nothing. Touch him, Kael said to Arya. Her heart slammed against her ribs. This was the moment. Either her power would reveal the truth or she would expose herself as a fraud before the entire court. Kael, she whispered, I do not know if I can. Yes, you do. His amber eyes held hers with absolute certainty. Trust your fire. Let it show you what he hides. Arya drew a shaking breath and moved toward Thane. The councillor held his ground, but fear rolled from him now. She could smell it. This is absurd, he said tightly. You cannot seriously believe an exiled wolf with fantasies of grandeur can. Arya placed her palm against his chest. Silver fire erupted. It did not burn his clothing or skin. It flowed through him like liquid light, seeking, peeling apart layers of deception, searching for the truth buried beneath years of carefully constructed loyalty. Then Arya saw it. Secret meetings held in shadow, gold passing from one hand to another, Seraphine's voice promising status, wealth, and a seat beside the new throne. All he had to do was remove one obstacle, one stubborn king who refused to surrender control. Thane knew about the poison. He had provided Kael's route. He had arranged for proof of the king's death to be delivered. Arya tore her hand away with a gasp. He knew. Horror and fury battled inside her. He told Seraphine where you would be and when you would be vulnerable. His task was to receive your body and deliver it to her. She looked directly at Kael. His payment was a place on her new council. The courtyard exploded into noise. Guards rushed forward. Thane turned to flee but was seized before his third step. Through the chaos, Kael remained completely still. His face could have been carved from the fortress stone. Take him to the deepest dungeon, he said quietly. Send word to every councillor. An emergency session begins within the hour. Your Majesty, please. Thane struggled against the guards. You must understand. She offered lies, Kael cut in, and you were foolish enough to sell your honor for them. His eyes hardened. If he speaks again, back him. The guards dragged Thane away while he continued to protest. Arya watched, feeling ill. He was not alone. When her fire entered him, she had sensed connections extending outward like a spider's web. Other traitors remained within the fortress, all of them tied to Seraphine. How many? Kael asked beside her. I cannot tell. Arya lowered her voice. But there are others. A network. Some reported to him. He reported to someone else. The corruption has been spreading for years, invisible until you know how to feel it. Then we search systematically. His jaw tightened. We begin with the council. Kael turned toward her fully. Can you do this? Can you touch each one and tell me who remains loyal? It was exactly what she had promised. But now dozens of eyes watched her, and Arya understood what the task would make her. The most feared outsider in the kingdom. They will despise me, she said. Your court will see a stranger arrive from the wilderness and destroy everything they believed was secure. Let them. Kael took her hand in full view of everyone. Silver fire sparked across their palms. He did not pull away. Let them hate you. Let them fear you. When the betrayal is exposed and the kingdom survives, they will know who saved them, even if they never possess the courage to thank you. Arya wanted to believe him, but she had been feared before. She had been hated before. Those stories had never ended kindly. Still, she had made a promise, and retreat had never been one of her strengths. "All right," she said. "Let us finish this." The council chamber was in chaos. 15 advisers spoke over one another, demanding explanations. Where had the king been? Why had Thane been arrested? Who was the unknown woman standing beside the throne? Arya remained near Kael, ignoring hostile stares and trying to steady her breathing. The fire beneath her skin was awake, eager, as though it had waited all her life for permission to see the truth. Enough. Kael's command silenced the chamber. You demand answers. Then hear them. Someone in this room arranged my assassination. Someone here has conspired with Seraphine to overthrow the Stormborn throne. His gaze swept over the council. Before this session ends, I will know every name. This is madness, a sharp-featured woman said. Her clothing was expensive. Arrogance radiated from her posture. You disappear for 4 days, return with an impossible tale, and expect us to accept. Councillor Vieri, Kael interrupted. Step forward. The woman froze. Excuse me. Step forward. Allow Arya to touch you. If you conceal nothing, you have nothing to fear. I will not permit some filthy exile to place her hands on me. Tholera spat. I do not care what bloodline she claims. Then you have already condemned yourself, Kael said. An innocent wolf would not fear proof of her loyalty. Vera's face reddened. How dare you? Seize her. The guards moved. Vera was faster. She shifted while running. Fine clothes tore as grey fur erupted across her body. In wolf form, she launched herself toward the nearest window. She never reached it. Arya's fire lashed out on instinct. Silver flames wrapped around Vera's legs like chains. The grey wolf struck the floor and howled, trapped by fire that did not scorch but refused to release her. 2 traitors before breakfast, Kael said, his voice colder than winter. Would anyone else like to run? No one moved. The remaining councillors stared at Arya with new fear. They had dismissed the Ashbourne flame as legend. Now legend held one of their own helpless on the floor. One by one, Kael ordered. Every councillor, every advisor, every guard with access to my private rooms. We will tear this corruption from the fortress even if it requires a week. It required 3 hours. 3 hours of touching hands and feeling truth hidden beneath skin. 3 hours of broken oaths, secret bargains, and ambition sold to Seraphine. When it ended, 7 councillors sat in chains. 7 wolves had exchanged loyalty for promises of power. The 8 who remained looked at Arya as though death itself stood beside the throne. Remove them, Kael said. Exhaustion finally entered his voice. Place them with Thane. Trials will begin after I have had time to consider the evidence. The guards led the traitors away. The loyal councillors left more slowly, each casting wary glances toward Arya. At last, she and Kael stood alone in the enormous chamber. You did it, he said quietly. You truly did it. Arya stared at her hands. They shook uncontrollably. The visible flames had faded, but she still felt every lie clinging to her skin. Every betrayal. They hate me now, she said. Even the loyal ones. I saw fear in their eyes. They will recover. Kael came to stand beside her. Or they will not. Either way, you saved my kingdom today. You exposed a conspiracy that would have destroyed us from within. At what cost? For the first time since entering the fortress, Arya allowed him to see her vulnerability. I became everything they feared, the dangerous outsider with power that does not belong in their world. She looked up at him. Your court will never accept me. My court, Chaol said slowly, will accept whomever I require them to accept. His hand rose to cup her face. If they cannot understand that you are the reason their king still breathes, then I have greatly overestimated their intelligence. Arya closed her eyes and leaned into his touch. She was exhausted. Searching so many wolves had emptied her in a new way. Their lies remained like dirt beneath her skin. Come, Chaol said gently. You need rest. Where? Your rooms. Arya opened her eyes. My rooms. You did not imagine I would place you in the guard barracks. A genuine smile softened his face. You are under my personal protection. Your suite is in the royal wing, beside mine. The decision was scandalous enough to feed the court's gossip for months. Arya was too tired to care. Chaol guided her through corridors of stone and silver, past tapestries showing ancient wars and coronations. Finally, he opened a door onto a chamber larger than the entire cabin where she had survived her exile. The sight nearly brought her to tears. Rest, Chaol said. Tomorrow we decide our next move. He paused. Together. He turned to leave. Arya caught his hand. Thank you. The words came softly. For believing me. For not forcing me to face them alone. Chaol looked back. Something in his expression made her heart stumble. I told you, Arya. His voice was low and certain. You do not burn alone any more. He closed the door gently behind him. Arya collapsed onto the enormous bed. She had exposed 7 traitors, proven the Ashwan power was real, secured a place beside the Alpha King. She had also placed an even larger target over her heart. By now, Seraphine would know her conspirators had fallen. She would know Chaol had returned with a power she had never anticipated. The first clash was finished. The war had only begun. Chapter 6. When? The heart recognizes home. Arya still could not sleep. Each time she closed her eyes, she felt the ghosts of the lies she had touched. 7 counselors. 7 souls carrying betrayal like disease. Their greed remained beneath her skin. Their ambition stained her thoughts. She could still feel the cold calculation that had allowed them to plan their king's murder without hesitation. It was as though pieces of their corruption had entered her blood. At some point deep in the night, Arya abandoned the attempt to rest. A silk robe had been folded across a chair. She wrapped it around herself and stepped onto the balcony connected to her suite. The softness felt foreign after months of rough wool and animal fur. The view stole what remained of her breath. The fortress stood high above the mountains. Forests stretched toward the horizon, silver beneath the moon. Wild land and shadow lay in every direction. This was the kingdom she had agreed to protect. These were the territories Chaol would die to defend. And somewhere beyond the walls, Seraphine was preparing her next move. Unable to sleep, Arya turned sharply. Silver sparks appeared at her fingertips. Chaol stepped onto the neighbouring balcony. Only then did Arya notice the narrow walkway joining their rooms. He could reach her within seconds. He could hear if she called for help. Privacy, apparently, had never been part of his plan. You placed me beside you deliberately. Guilty. Chaol leaned against the railing. Moonlight caught in his dark hair, carving him from shadow and silver. He wore loose sleeping trousers and a simple shirt. His feet were bare. His body appeared relaxed. His eyes did not. They watched her with the same intensity that always made Arya feel visible down to the soul. I cannot protect you from the other side of the fortress. I do not require protection. Kael lifted an eyebrow. No. Then exposing 7 traitors today does not concern you. 7 wolves with families, allies, and friends who may seek revenge. Arya tightened her jaw. I did what you asked. I know. His expression softened. And I am grateful. But it does not change the truth. You are now the most dangerous wolf in my court. He pushed away from the railing and crossed the walkway with effortless grace. Not only because of what you can do, because of what you know. He stopped several feet away. Every person hiding corruption will fear you now. They will wonder what you might discover with one touch. Fear makes people reckless and violent. So you intend to keep me near you. I intend to keep you alive. His voice left no room for argument. There is a difference. Arya turned back toward the moonlit forest and wrapped her arms around herself. The night was cold, but silver fire kept her warm. She carried summer beneath her skin even in the heart of winter. I can still feel them, she admitted after a long silence. The traitors. Their lies. It is as though each one left something behind when I touched them. Rot that will not wash away. Kael moved closer until his shoulder almost touched hers. That may be the cost of seeing truth, he said. You cannot expose darkness without feeling its weight. My grandmother must have carried this every day. Arya's hands tightened around the stone railing. Every illness she healed. Every corruption she burned away. No wonder she destroyed herself. How did she touch darkness again and again without allowing it to consume her? I do not know, Kael said honestly, but she possessed something you have not gained yet. Experience. His hand covered hers. Warm. Solid. She had used her gift for decades. She must have learned how to let what she felt pass through her instead of settling inside her bones. His thumb brushed across Arya's knuckles. You are attempting in days what required her years to master. Of course it overwhelms you. What if I never master it? Arya finally gave voice to the fear that had followed her from the council chamber. What if I am not strong enough? What if the power empties me before I learn how to survive it? Kael turned toward her fully. He lifted her chin until she had no choice but to meet his eyes. Then we slow down. The simplicity of the answer startled her. We rest between uses. We find methods to ground you. We make certain you never carry the burden alone. You cannot protect me from my own power. No. Vulnerability entered his expression. But I can give you reasons to continue fighting. He studied her as if the answer mattered more than any throne. Do you know what I saw today? When you stood before 15 hostile councillors and exposed every traitor? Arya shook her head. I saw someone who could have fled the moment danger became real. Instead, you stayed. You touched each of them. You carried their corruption. And you did not break. His hand moved from her chin to her cheek. You did not even bend. You burned brighter. I was terrified. I know. Kael smiled gently. And you did it anyway. That is courage, not the absence of fear, but the choice that something else matters more. And what matters more to me? Arya's heart began to race. That is yours to decide. His thumb moved across her cheekbone. But I hope part of it is that you are tired. Tired of fear. Tired of hiding. Tired of allowing other people to decide your value. He was right. For 19 years, Arya had heard that she was too dangerous, too difficult, too broken. Some part of her had believed it so completely that she treated her own fire as a sin requiring apology. But Kael looked at that same power and saw strength. Something inside her was beginning to change. Tell me about the fire, he said suddenly. Not its healing, not the way it detects corruption. Tell me what it feels like inside you. No one had ever asked. Arya searched for words. It feels like another heartbeat, a pulse of heat beneath my skin. Most of the time it remains quiet. She hesitated. But when I become frightened or angry, or, Cale prompted, a knowing smile touching his mouth. Colour warmed Arya's face. Or when someone touches me, she finished softly, as you were touching me now. The fire responds to connection. It reaches outward as though it wants to understand the person near her. Show me, Cale said. Arya's breath caught. What? Show me what you carry. He took her hand and pressed her palm flat against his chest, directly over his heart. Let the fire touch me. Do not heal. Do not search for lies. Simply allow it to exist between us. Cale, I do not know whether. Trust me. His voice softened. The way I am trusting you. Arya inhaled slowly. Then she released the silver flame with careful restraint. Warm light flowed from her palm into Cale's body. It did not invade or search. It simply touched. Sunlight given form. Through the connection, Arya felt him. Not his thoughts. Not hidden memories. His emotions. Unfiltered. She felt exhaustion concealed beneath authority. Fear buried under confidence. The loneliness of a king unable to trust anyone around him. The endless weight of responsibility. And beneath all of it burned something so fierce that Arya's heart stopped. Want. Need. Recognition. He felt the same pull. This connection was not strategy, not political convenience. It reached deeper than both of them understood. Arya. Cale's eyes widened. I can feel you. Not only the fire. Wonder transformed his face. Your fear. Your determination. Your hope. His voice became quiet. You are hoping this is real. That I am real. That you will not awaken and discover everything was a dream. Sudden vulnerability terrified her. Arya tried to remove her hand. Cale covered it with his own and held it against his heart. Do not, he said. Do not hide from me now. This is dangerous. Her whisper trembled. Becoming close to you. Allowing you to come close to me. It is the only honest thing in a court built from lies. Cale leaned toward her until his breath touched her lips. I know the danger. We should maintain distance. We should pretend our bond is strategy and nothing more. His forehead came to rest against hers. But I am tired of pretending. Tired of being alone while surrounded by people. Tired of wondering whether anyone sees more than a crown when they look at me. I see you. The words rose from somewhere deep inside Arya. I see the parts you show the world and those you hide. She swallowed. And I am terrified by how much I want this. How much I want you. How much I want to believe someone like me is allowed something good. Someone like you. Cale drew back enough to look into her eyes. Someone like you deserves every good thing this world has denied her. I intend to prove that until you believe it. He closed the distance slowly. Arya had every opportunity to retreat. She moved toward him instead. His lips brushed hers. Softly. Gently. Nothing like the fierce king who ruled through command and steel. This was vulnerable. Honest. Terrifying in its intensity. Silver fire burst between them. It did not burn. It sang. Flames danced across their skin and curled around their bodies, drawing them closer. Arya gasped against Cale's mouth. His arms closed around her waist, anchoring her as the kiss deepened. Her power recognized him in a language beyond thought. Mine, the fire whispered. Ours. Home. Cale ended the kiss first. His breathing was unsteady. Amber light blazed in his eyes. If we continue, he said roughly, I may not be able to stop. Arya trembled from head to foot. The fire still pulled her toward him. Would that be so terrible? Yes. Cale cradled her face, fierce and tender at once. Because you deserve more than a desperate moment on a balcony. You deserve time, care, someone who treats every part of you as sacred. His thumb traced her lower lip. When I take you to my bed and I intend to, I want no doubt inside you, no fear that this is political convenience, no question about whether you are being used. I do not question it. You will tomorrow. Sad understanding touched his smile. When Fear returns, you will remember that you stand in the court of a king whose enemies would kill you merely to wound him. You will wonder whether we moved too quickly, whether you are another weapon I seek to possess. He pressed a reverent kiss to her forehead. So I will give you time, space. If you come to me, it will be because you freely choose me, not from obligation, fear, or desperation for connection. He was right. Arya hated that he was right. In that moment, with his heart beating beneath her palm and silver flame surrounding them, she wanted to stop fighting, to fall completely and trust that he would catch her. Yet Chaol was looking beyond immediate need towards something that might survive. All right, she said at last, stepping back. The flames dimmed reluctantly. We slow down, Chaol agreed, but his eyes remained full of promises that quickened her pulse. Know this, Arya, what I feel is not strategy. It is not convenience. It is not an attempt to secure a useful power for my court. He caught her hand and kissed her knuckles. The touch burned straight through her soul. It is real. Time will not make it disappear. Arya nodded because she did not trust her voice. Chaol gave her a private smile, soft, meant only for her. Then he crossed the narrow bridge toward his room. At the door, he looked back. Sleep well, Arya Ashbourne. I am here if you need me. He disappeared inside. Arya remained beneath the moonlight, touching lips that still remembered his kiss. Mine, the fire whispered again. Ours. For the first time in her life, Arya allowed herself to want something that belonged only to her. Not duty, not prophecy, not the salvation of a kingdom. Only a man who saw her clearly and chose her anyway. The dangerous girl declared too broken to belong. Chosen, wanted, real. Chapter 7. When betrayal strikes at noon, the attack came at midday. The sun stood high above the fortress, and the court had gathered to hear the formal judgment of the traitors. Arya stood beside Chaol's throne wearing the clothes delivered to her room that morning. Deep blue velvet marked her in storm-born colours. Silver embroidery caught the light with every movement. Someone had braided her hair and woven delicate chains through the dark strands. She looked as though she belonged in the royal court, as though she had always stood beside the throne. It was a beautiful lie. Everyone knew it. The remaining councillors watched her with hostility barely hidden behind formal expressions. Guards kept their distance, hands lingering near weapons. Even servants gave her a wide path, afraid the legendary flame might escape her skin and reach for them. Only Chaol appeared untouched by the tension. He sat upon the throne with the absolute confidence of a king who had survived murder and returned stronger. From time to time he glanced toward Arya. The looks were quick, almost invisible, but warmth lived inside them. The kiss on the balcony had been real. The promises had been real. Her fire's recognition of him had been real. Daylight, however, wrought doubt exactly as Chaol had predicted. Standing before a court that feared her, Arya could not stop wondering whether she had made a terrible mistake. Bring in the prisoners, Chaol commanded. The 7 traitors entered in chains. Thane walked first, his once expensive clothing torn and stained. Vera followed, still carrying a wolf's snarl even in human form. Behind them came 5 others whose betrayals Arya remembered like poison across her tongue. You stand accused of conspiracy, treason, and the attempted murderer of your king, Chaol announced. His voice carried through the hall with unquestionable authority. The evidence is complete. Your guilt was revealed by fire incapable of deception. Before I pronounce sentence, does any prisoner wish to speak? Yes. Thane stepped forward. His chains rattled across the stone. He did not look at Cale, his eyes fixed on Arya. I wish to speak about the witch you brought into this court, the exile who claims to reveal truth while dealing only in lies. Whispers spread through the chamber. Arya felt a fire wake beneath her skin. Careful, Thane, Cale said softly. The quietness made the warning more dangerous. You are already condemned. Do not turn your final defense into another display of stupidity. Stupidity. Thane laughed, bitter and broken. My only stupidity was underestimating her. We all did. We believed she was a useless cast-off from an insignificant pack, a frightened girl imagining herself important. His mouth twisted. But she is more than that. She is a weapon, one you use against anyone who dares question your rule. I use truth, Cale replied. Something you failed to recognize even when it stood before you. Truth. Vera snarled. She touched us and declared us guilty. No proper trial. No witnesses. Only her word and your blind faith. You call that justice. I call it accurate. Cale's expression remained cold. Every one of you conspired with Seraphine. You took her gold, accepted her promises, and assisted in planning my death. He leaned forward slightly. Deny it. No one spoke. They could not. Guilt remained visible across their faces. That is what I expected. Cale rose. Your sentence is exile. All 7 of you are stripped of rank, title, land, and protection. You have until sunset to cross beyond my borders. If you are discovered inside the Northern Territories afterward, you will be executed. Tixile. Thane's laugh became ugly. You call that mercy? Seraphine will find us the moment we leave. She will kill us to silence what we know. Then you should have chosen your master with greater care. Cale's voice held no sympathy. Guards. Remove them. Before anyone could move, Thane lunged toward Arya. He did not shift. He did not strike. He moved only fast enough to catch her wrist before the guards reached him. The moment his skin touched hers, Arya felt another presence. Something hidden inside his mind. Something that had been waiting for this exact moment. No! Thane screamed. The windows exploded inward. Glass and sunlight filled the chamber. Dozens of wolves leapt through the openings, shifting in midair. White fur marked them as members of Seraphine's personal guard. On the main balcony, above the chaos, stood Seraphine herself. A crown of ice and silver rested on her head. She carried herself like a queen who had already won. "Hello, husband," she purred. "Did you miss me?" Everything happened at once. Cale's guards met the attackers. Steel struck claws. Blood sprayed across polished marble. Screams filled the throne room. Arya remained trapped in Thane's grip. Silver flame erupted across her body as she fought to break free. He held on, even while the fire blackened his skin, even while pain tore across his face. She said you would try to save him. Thane gasped. She said you would not be able to stop yourself. She told me to use that against you. Release her. Cale roared. He tried to reach Arya, but 3 of Seraphine's wolves blocked his path. Even an Alpha King could not cross those odds quickly. The prophecy was right. Thane continued through his pain. You will have to choose. Save yourself or save your king. You cannot do both. Not this time. Then Arya understood. This was the true trap. Seraphine's wolves were not trying to kill Cale immediately. They were wounding him, forcing him backward toward the balcony where Seraphine waited. Something glowed sickly green in her hand. More poison. enough to kill even an Alpha King if it reached his heart. Kill! Arya screamed. It is a trap. She is going to. Thane twisted her wrist. Agony shot through her arm. The fire faltered. Seraphine threw the vial. It arced through the air with perfect aim, spinning toward Chaol's chest. Arya did not think. She did not calculate the cost. She moved. Power detonated from her body. The blast hurled Thane across the chamber and cleared a path through the fighting wolves as though they were made of paper. Silver flame reached Chaol an instant before the poison. It wrapped around him like a shield. The vial shattered against it. Green liquid hissed and smoked, then vanished into nothing. No! Seraphine's scream carried pure fury. That cannot be possible. Nothing destroys that poison. Arya's fire could. It burned the substance exactly as it had burned poison from Chaol's blood days earlier. Exactly as it burned lies from corrupted souls. And it was burning through Arya's strength with equal hunger. Arya, stop! Chaol reached her and caught both shoulders. Alarm widened his eyes. You are killing yourself. She could not stop. The instant her power touched the poison, Arya sensed something concealed beneath it. A curse. Ancient magic had been woven into the liquid. The weapon was never intended merely to kill Chaol. It was designed to corrupt him, to turn the king into something monstrous, to make him destroy his own kingdom from within. There is a curse, Arya gasped. Her whole body shook beneath the effort of maintaining the shield. You wanted him alive long enough to suffer. I wanted you to watch him become everything his people feared, Seraphine said. Hatred distorted her beautiful face. I wanted him to understand what happens to kings who reject me. Then her gaze narrowed on Arya. But you are stronger than I expected. Stronger than you should be. Understanding slowly entered Seraphine's expression. Unless the prophecy was never about stopping me. Her voice became colder. Unless it was about what you would become. Fall back. Chaol commanded his guards. Protect the council. The loyal wolves formed a defensive line between the civilians and Seraphine's attackers. But Seraphine no longer cared about the council. Every part of her attention belonged to Arya. Kill the girl, she ordered. I do not care how. End her. The white wolves turned together, toward Arya, toward the exhausted woman who had spent nearly all her power saving the king, toward what appeared to be an easy target. Over my dead body, Chaol shifted while moving. His human form exploded into the enormous black wolf Arya had found in the snow, but he was no longer wounded, no longer poisoned. He was healed, powerful, and furious. He placed his massive body between Arya and the attackers. The growl rising from him was death-made sound. A challenge. A promise. Touch her and die. There were too many. 12 wolves circled him. Even an Alpha King could not defeat all of them alone. Arya watched the net close. Saw Chaol about to be overwhelmed. The words of the prophecy return. Save the kingdom and lose yourself. Save yourself and watch the kingdom burn. Then she remembered the final line. But she need not burn alone. Chaol! His head turned toward her voice. Trust me. Arya did not wait for permission. She reached for him with every fragment of power remaining inside her. Silver fire poured from her body. This time it did not become a shield. It wrapped around Chaol's wolf form like a second skin. It entered his strength and amplified it. The black wolf became something more than an Alpha King. Something born from legend. Silver light blazed across his fur. His amber eyes turned white-hot. When Chaol moved, he possessed speed and strength no single wolf should have carried. He tore through Seraphine's attackers as if they were shadows. Every strike landed with devastating precision. Arya felt his battle instincts through their connection. Her fire did not destroy for him. It strengthened, guided, joined. Together, they were unstoppable. Within minutes, the white walls lay broken across the throne room. Some were dead. Most of the survivors fled. Seraphine stood alone on the balcony. Shock and fear had drained her face pale. "This is not over," she spat. "You think you have won. You believe one fire witch can save you." Her hatred locked onto Arya. "I know what you are now. I understand the prophecy. When I return, and I will return, I will make certain you burn so brightly that nothing remains except ash." She threw herself from the balcony. A body shifted in midfall, disappearing into the forest below. Chaol returned to human form. He breathed hard, still glowing with traces of Arya's silver flame. When he looked at her, gratitude, wonder, and fear filled his face. "What did you do?" "I do not know." Her legs failed. Chaol caught her before she fell. "I could not allow them to hurt you. I reached for you and you shared your power," or entered his voice. "You merged your fire with my strength. I have never felt anything like it. I have never been that powerful. Is that dangerous?" Arya's vision began to blur. "I do not know," Chaol admitted. He lifted her easily into his arms. "But we will discover the answer together." The throne room lay in ruin around them, wounded guards, terrified councillors, broken windows, blood across marble, and the sharp scent of silver fire. At its centre stood a king holding the woman who had saved his life again. Seraphine was right about one thing, an older loyal councillor said. She will return. Next time she will be prepared for whatever that was. Let her return. Chaol's voice became winter. Let her bring armies, curses, poison, and every weapon she possesses. She knows the truth now. His arms tightened protectively around Arya. She is not fighting me alone any more. She is fighting us. His gaze turned merciless. And we are far more difficult to kill than she believed. Arya wanted to answer with something brave. Exhaustion dragged her downward before she could speak. The last thing she heard was Chaol's voice, soft and fierce beside her ear. "I have you. I will not let you fall. Never." Despite the blood, betrayal, and prophecy promising pain, Arya believed him. She was not burning alone any more. Chapter 8. The power claimed. Arya awakened to fire. Not silver flame. Real fire. Orange and red devoured the walls of her chamber. Smoke filled the air, thick enough to choke. Beyond the flames, someone was screaming. Arya rolled from the bed and hit the floor coughing. Her mind remained clouded by exhaustion. How long had she been unconscious? Hours. Days. Every part of her body ached as though an army had trampled her. Her power felt distant and muted, reduced to a faint ember after everything she had given. "Arya!" Chaol's voice came through the wall of flame separating their rooms. Raw panic filled it. "I am here," she called. She stumbled toward the balcony, away from the smoke. "I am alive." "The fortress is under attack," Chaol shouted. Seraphine returned with an army. They breached the walls. Cold moved through Arya's blood. An army. Not assassins. Not hidden conspirators. An invasion. How many wolves had Seraphine convinced to betray their king? How far did her influence reach? The balcony door had been locked from the outside. Arya struck it with her shoulder once. Twice. On the third impact, the frame broke and she stumbled into open air. The fortress was burning. Dozens of fires blazed across separate wings, too coordinated to be accidental. The flames were designed to trap defenders inside while enemies entered through breaches in the walls. Hundreds of white-clad wolves filled the courtyard below. They advanced with military precision. This was not a raid. Seraphine had come to conquer. Arya! Cale appeared on his balcony, stained with smoke and blood but alive. "Can you cross?" She looked at the narrow stone walkway joining their rooms. Fire had not touched it. Below waited a 3-story fall onto bare rock. Yes. There was no other answer. Arya crossed slowly, her bare feet searching for stability on the cold stone. The instant she reached him, Cale pulled her into his room and away from the edge. "Are you injured?" His hands moved over her arms and shoulders, checking for wounds. "I am fine." "What happened? How long was I unconscious?" "6 hours." Cale's expression was grim. In that time, Seraphine gathered every bitter and ambitious wolf in the Northern Territories. She promised land, titles, and power to anyone who helped her seize the throne. His jaw tightened. "She calls the invasion a liberation. She claims I am a tyrant who imprisons councillors without trial and keeps a witch as my personal weapon. That is a lie. Of course it is. But it is a lie many wolves wanted permission to believe." Cale moved to the weapons rack and strapped blades across his body with practiced speed. "Half the territories have openly joined her. The others are still choosing. Those who remained loyal are fighting against impossible numbers." Arya looked through the window. Stormborn guards held defensive lines below, but the White Army pushed them backward step by bloody step. "We must get you out," Cale said. "There is an escape passage beneath the lower levels. My father built it for a siege. If we move quickly—" "No!" Cale froze. "What?" "I am not running." Arya faced him. Smoke darkened the room. Fear pressed against her chest. Exhaustion made her knees weak. Her voice remained steady. "Not this time." "Not from her." "Arya, there are hundreds. Even with your power, we cannot." "Yes, we can." She took both his hands. A weak spark of silver appeared between their palms. Faint, but alive. Still fighting. "The prophecy said I would have to save the kingdom or save myself. But we discovered another path when we joined our power." Understanding entered Cale's eyes. "You want to merge with me again. I want to do it correctly." Arya tightened her fingers around his. "Last time I acted without control. Now I know what is possible. My fire can strengthen you. It can transform you into something they cannot defeat." She held his gaze. "Let me stand beside you. Let me become more than the witch hidden behind your throne. You will burn yourself empty." Yet hope had entered Cale's voice. Fierce. Desperate. "If you force your power that hard again, then I burn." Arya accepted the words calmly. "But I would rather burn fighting than watch you fall because fear kept me hidden." Cale stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. "You are completely insane. I learned from the best." He kissed her. Hard. Desperate. Filled with promises neither of them knew whether they would live to keep. When he withdrew, amber fire blazed in his eyes. "If we do this, we hold nothing back. No hesitation. We strike with everything we possess and stop only when they break or we do." "Agreed." Cale's smile became dangerous. "Then let us show them what happens when they force the flame that walks into a corner." They entered the courtyard like vengeance made flesh. Cale wore full armor and moved with the lethal control of a king trained for war since childhood. Arya walked beside him in the silk robe from her room, silver fire already moving across her skin. The battlefield became silent. Seraphine's army stopped advancing. Stormborn defenders turned to stare. A girl glowed like a star in the middle of ruin. And the Alpha King stood beside her without fear. "Seraphine!" Cale's voice thundered across the courtyard. "Show yourself. Or do you intend to let your followers die while you hide behind them?" For a moment no one answered. Then cold laughter drifted from the main gate. Seraphine entered through the breach as though the fortress already belonged to her. The crown of ice and silver still rested on her head. She remained beautiful, terrible, certain of victory. "Hello again, darling," she said. "I see you brought your pet witch." "I see you brought an army of cowards," Kael replied. "How many lies did you require to persuade them to betray their king?" "No lies." Seraphine smiled. "I told them you were weak, that cursed exile had manipulated you, that you condemned loyal counselors on the word of a girl unable to control her own power." Cruel satisfaction sharpened her face. "They were eager for a ruler who understands strength. Then allow me to show you strength." Kael shifted. His human body became the massive black wolf, but he did not attack. He waited for Arya. She went to him without hesitation and placed both hands against his fur. This time, she knew what she was doing. Silver fire poured from her in a controlled torrent. Not wild, not desperate, directed. It flowed into Kael like water finding its true course. The flames reached muscle, bone, instinct, and spirit. Arima push. The transformation was immediate. Silver light consumed Kael's wolf form, so bright that wolves turned their faces away. His already enormous body grew larger until he towered above every creature in the courtyard. When he stepped forward, the ground trembled. "Impossible," Seraphine whispered. For the first time, certainty cracked in her eyes. "You wanted to understand what we are," Arya called. Her voice carried through the silver fire. "Then look." She walked forward. Flames rose from the ground beneath each step. They did not destroy. They claimed. They marked the fortress as hers, as theirs. "I am Arya Ashbourne," she declared, "daughter of the flame that walks, heir to a power you cannot comprehend." Her eyes locked onto Seraphine. "And I stand with Kael Stormborn, Alpha King of the Northern Territories. If you want his kingdom, you pass through us." Rage contorted Seraphine's face. "Kill them!" she screamed. "Kill them both!" The army surged. Kael met it head-on. Enhanced by Arya's fire, he became a force of nature. Each strike broke an enemy line. Every movement carried devastating purpose. Behind him, silver flame crossed the battlefield. It ignored loyal defenders. It reached only those who had chosen betrayal. Through the bond, Arya felt Kael's battle mind. She sensed his awareness of every fighter nearby. Without words, she warned him of attacks from behind, revealed weaknesses in the enemy formation, guided him with impossible precision. They were not merely fighting beside one another. They fought as one being. "Fall back!" Someone in Seraphine's army cried. "They are monsters." Silver flame wrapped around the fleeing wolf. It did not kill him. It held him while Arya searched his soul. Fear. Coercion. His family had been taken hostage. You were forced, she realized. Arya released him. "Find your family. Run. You were not guilty." The wolf stared at her in shock, then vanished into the chaos. Again and again, Arya let the fire judge those before her. Wolves threatened or deceived were released. Those who had willingly chosen darkness faced Kael. Within an hour, Seraphine's army collapsed. Some lay dead. Many fled. The rest knelt in surrender before a king and his silver flame. Only Seraphine remained standing. The wolves who had promised to follow her were gone. "You cannot kill me," she said. Her voice shook, though defiance remained. "I am still legally your wife. Marriage law protects me. If you execute me, the other territories will call it murder and use my death to justify war. I do not need to kill you." Kael shifted back into human form, silver light still tracing his skin. "Arya." She approached Seraphine. Her body shook from exhaustion, but enough power remained for one final act. Arya placed a palm against the woman's chest. She looked past beauty, ambition, and calculated cruelty, down to the center of Seraphine's soul. What she found made her sick. She killed them, Arya whispered. Kael's expression changed. What? The plague 30 years ago, the sickness my grandmother died fighting. It was not natural. Silverfire rose higher. Seraphine's family created it. They released disease into the territories to test whether it could become a weapon. Hundreds died so they could measure its value. Kael went cold as ice. My grandmother died because of a plague her family manufactured for profit, Arya said. Then another connection became clear. My grandmother tried to save your family too. That is why you knew the stories, why you remembered her. She came here, Kael said hollowly. She tried to heal the Stormmourne pack. His face tightened with an old grief. She arrived too late to save my grandmother. The Ashbourne healer blamed herself. And pushed harder, Arya finished. She travelled to more packs until nothing remained inside her. Her gaze burned into Seraphine. She died fighting a disease that never should have existed, created by the family you married into. Seraphine tried to retreat. Arya's flame held her still. You cannot prove it, Seraphine said. The records were destroyed. No one will believe her. I believe her. Kael's voice silenced the courtyard. That is enough. He turned to his guards. Take Seraphine to the deepest cell in the fortress. Send messengers to every territory. Tell them we have uncovered crimes, reaching back 30 years, crimes demanding judgment. You cannot do this. Seraphine screamed while the guards dragged her away. You need me, my family's wealth, our alliances. Without us, you are nothing. Her voice faded inside the fortress. Kael and Arya remained in a courtyard filled with wounded bodies and smoking stone. It is over, Arya said quietly. She is finished. This battle is finished, Kael corrected. He looked across the destruction. The war is beginning. Seraphine has allies and family who will not accept her imprisonment. Then we fight them too. Arya swayed. Kael caught her immediately. Together, she whispered, as we did today. Her vision blurred. Silver fire flickered once, then disappeared. Darkness pulled her down for the second time in a single day. She did not feel afraid. Kael was there. Solid. Real. Certain. I have you, he murmured, lifting her into his arms. You magnificent, terrifying, impossible woman. I have you. Before unconsciousness claimed her, Arya heard the guards cheering. His people. A people now. They were no longer looking to King and his weapon. They saw partners. Equals. Two halves of a power capable of changing the world. The flame that walks had claimed her gift. The kingdom would never be the same. Chapter 9. Choosing each other. Arya awakened slowly. This time there was no fire, no screaming, only warmth and pale morning light passing through curtains she did not recognize. She lay in a bed larger and more luxurious than the one in her suite. When she turned her head, she found Kael asleep in a chair beside her. His head rested against the wall. Formal clothing had been replaced by loose trousers and a simple shirt. Dried blood remained across his knuckles. Bruises darkened his jaw. He looked exhausted. But he was alive, whole, and he had stayed. Arya carefully pushed herself upright. Her body hurt, though the pain had become distant and manageable. The worst had passed while she slept. How long had she been unconscious? 2 days. Arya jumped. Kael's eyes were open, studying her with an intensity that made her feel both exposed and safe. 2 days. You pushed yourself farther than before. His voice was rough from sleep and something else. Fear. The healers said you emptied nearly everything. If the connection had remained open any longer—" He stopped. His jaw tightened. "You could have died, Arya, truly died. But I did not, because I severed the connection when I felt you fading." Cale rose and sat at the edge of the bed, close enough to touch, not touching. "I promise I would not allow you to sacrifice yourself for my kingdom." Arya looked at him carefully. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. Tension held his shoulders. His hands were clenched as though he fought the urge to reach for her. "You have not slept. How could I?" A bitter laugh escaped him. "You were unconscious for 2 days. I did not know whether you would wake. I did not know whether I had broken you by accepting your power." His voice cracked. "I wondered whether I had killed you because I was too selfish to let you run when you still had the chance. Cale, when I was 12, I watched one of my father's advisors die defending him from assassins. The confession rushed out as if he had held it too long. The man used every fragment of his power. When the battle ended, nothing remained except ash and the memory of someone who loved his king too much to refuse." Cale finally met her gaze. His eyes were haunted. "I swore I would never demand that sacrifice from anyone. Then I met you. Twice. I accepted everything you had to give. Twice. You nearly died." Arya reached for his hand. A weak silver spark appeared between their palms. Faint, at present. Their connection still lived. "I chose this," she said firmly. "You did not force me. You gave me time and options. I decided to fight beside you." She drew a breath. "Not because I was manipulated. Not because I feared you. I chose you because you saw me when no one else would. You made me believe I was worth more than the curse everyone said I carried. You are worth more." Cale's answer was fierce. "You are worth everything. That is why I cannot ask you to merge with me again if doing so may take you away." "Then do not ask." Arya squeezed his hand. "Let me offer when I am ready. When I understand the power better. When I can control it without destroying myself." She held his eyes. "We are still learning what we can become and what it costs. We need to balance power with survival. And if you never can," Cale asked, "if joining with me always places your life at risk, then we find another method." Her smile was gentle and certain. "We adapt. We learn. That is what partners do." Cale stared at her. Then he laughed. Real laughter. Relief filled it. "Partners," he repeated. "Not king and subject. Not master and weapon. Only partners." He pulled her into his arms carefully, holding her as though she were precious enough to break. "You terrify me," he murmured into her hair. "The way you throw yourself into danger. The way you give everything without hesitation is brave, foolish, and maddening. I learned from the best." Arya rested against his chest and listened to his heartbeat. Strong. Steady. Real. "We must discuss what comes next," Cale said after a while. "A court. The territories. Half the northern packs witnessed us become something no one believed possible. Are they afraid? Terrified? You did not lie. But they are also in awe. You separated the guilty from those who were forced. You released the innocent and showed mercy where Seraphine offered none." He drew back enough to see her face. "They are already calling you the Mercy Flame. The Silver Judge. I am not a judge. No, you are something better." Cale's expression became serious. "You are proof that power does not have to corrupt. That fire does not have to destroy. That someone rejected for being dangerous can become exactly what a kingdom needs." "And what does the kingdom need?" "You." The answer came simply. "Not as my weapon. Not as my tool. As my equal. As the wolf beside the throne who will tell me when I am wrong and stand with me when I am right." Arya's breath caught. "You want me to remain here permanently. I want more than that. Chaol cupped her face. I want the court to recognize what you are, not merely a healer or the Ashbourne heir. His voice lowered. My chosen mate, my equal in every matter. Chaol, I am still an exile. My pack cast me out. I possess no rank or legitimacy. Your court will never. Your pack was wrong. His interruption held absolute certainty. I am the Alpha King of the Northern Territories. If I declare that you possess standing, then you possess it. If I say you belong at my side, no wolf can remove you. Amber light burned in his eyes. But I am not commanding you. I am asking. His thumb moved gently across her cheek. Will you stay? Will you allow me to stand beside you as you have stood beside me? Aria's thoughts spun. This was everything she had been afraid to desire. Not tolerance. Not temporary safety. Belonging. A place where her fire was celebrated instead of feared. A life in which she was chosen rather than rejected. What about the prophecy? She asked. It demanded that I choose the kingdom or myself. We defied it twice. Chaol's tone was firm. We proved there are more than two paths. If the moon goddess objects to our choices, she can appear and say so herself. Aria laughed. You intend to challenge a goddess. If she attempts to take you from me— Chaol's smile was sharp, dangerous, and completely sincere. Without hesitation, Aria looked at him. This fierce, complicated, infuriating king had become her anchor, her home, the first person to see beauty inside the fire everyone else called a curse. All right, she whispered. I will stay. I will be your partner, your equal, whatever that means. It means everything. Chaol kissed her. Not desperately. Not with fear that time would end before the promise could be kept. The kiss was steady and real. Silver fire appeared between them, warm and gentle. It did not demand or consume. It simply acknowledged what they had chosen. When they separated, Chaol rested his forehead against hers. The council wants a ceremony, he said. They want to recognize you formally and give you a title. They also want every territory to understand you stand beneath the throne's protection. What title? That choice belongs to you. But I thought of Flamekeeper. His smile softened. The wolf who guards the throne not with fang or claw, but with truth. Fire that removes corruption and leaves only what is real. Flamekeeper, Aria repeated. The word felt strong without cruelty. Important without becoming a threat. I like it. Good. Because they are waiting. Chaol rose and offered his hand. The loyalists. The guards and wolves who fought beside us. They want to thank the woman who saved their king and their kingdom. Aria allowed him to pull her upright. Her body protested, still recovering, but she could stand. She could walk. She could face the court that had feared her days earlier. How do I look? She asked, suddenly self-conscious. Someone had dressed her in sleeping clothes. Her hair was tangled. She probably resembled death. Like a woman who fought an army and won, Chaol said. Like someone who earned the right to stand wherever she chooses and challenge anyone to object. He tightened his hand around hers. Like my equal. The ceremony was simple. No elaborate ritual. No endless speech. Chaol stood before the court with Aria beside him. One by one, councillors, guards, and servants who had survived the battle came forward. They bowed and acknowledged what she had done. Flamekeeper, Mercy Flame, Silver Judge. Tears burned behind Aria's eyes. These wolves had once watched her with suspicion. Now they offered gratitude. You saved my son, an older woman said as she knelt. Your fire touched him and recognized he had been forced to fight. You allowed him to run. He lives because of your mercy. You exposed the corruption destroying us, A guard added, "You showed us what we were too blind to see. You stood beside our king when others would have fled." Another wolf said, "You proved strength is not merely power, it is choice." The acknowledgments continued until Arya understood something she had never expected. She was not simply being tolerated. She was valued, not despite her power, because of how she used it with mercy, courage, and a willingness to look past appearances. "The Flamekeeper has my loyalty," Chaol declared when the final wolf had spoken. "She has my trust and protection. Anyone who threatens her answers to me personally." His gaze crossed the room, daring objection. "She stands as my equal in every matter of court. Her word carries the authority of the throne." For one heartbeat, silence remained. Then the hall erupted in howls. Not fear. Acceptance. Recognition. Arya Ashbourne the exile, the cast-off, the cursed daughter no pack wanted had found a place beside a king who saw her clearly and chose her anyway. "Thank you," she whispered to Chaol. "For what?" "For seeing me. For never forcing me to choose between power and belonging. For showing me I can have both." Chaol smiled, warm and devastating. "You never needed to choose. You only needed someone brave enough to stand inside your fire without flinching. And you are that person. Every day for the rest of our lives if you will have me." Arya looked around the throne room, at wolves who had accepted her, at the kingdom she had helped save, at a future she had once believed impossible. She finally understood what her grandmother may have known. Power was not the curse. Fear was. The moment she stopped fearing what she could do and began choosing what she should do, everything changed. "I will have you," Arya said. "Today, tomorrow, for as long as this life allows. Forever, then." Chaol's answer carried a promise. "Because I will not let you go." Surrounded by wolves who had once feared her and now celebrated her, Arya understood what home truly meant. Not a building, not even a pack. Home was a person who saw every part of you and chose you anyway. The girl who had burned alone had found someone willing to burn beside her. Together they were unstoppable. Chapter 10. Where Belonging Live. 3 months later, Arya returned to the clearing where she had first found Chaol dying in the snow. The forest had changed. Spring arrived early that year. Ice retreated from the earth. Green shoots broke through ground that had seemed permanently frozen. Wildflowers grew wherever sunlight reached purple, gold, and silver-white. The trees no longer appeared hostile. They seemed peaceful, as though the land itself had finally released a breath held too long. "Are you certain?" Chaol asked beside her. He wore ordinary travelling clothes. No crown, no armor, nothing to mark him as king. Only a man walking through the forest with the woman who had changed his world. "I am certain." Arya knelt where his blood had once stained the snow, where silver fire had first poured from her hands into his body, where everything began. She pressed her palm to the earth. Silver flames spread through the clearing. They did not burn. They blessed. The fire entered the soil, fed the roots beneath, and left a mark that would remain for generations. "What are you doing?" Chaol asked softly. "Leaving a memorial." Arya looked at the glowing earth. "For the wolf I was when I found you here, the girl so frightened of her own power that she nearly walked away, the exile who believed she would never belong anywhere." She raised her eyes to him with a bittersweet smile. "She deserves to be remembered, even if I am no longer only her." Chaol crouched beside her and covered her hand with his. "You are still her, only more. Stronger, braver, but still the woman who chose mercy when safety demanded that she leave me. Perhaps." Arya rose and brushed soil from her palms. "But I am no longer afraid. Not of my fire. Not of other people's judgment. Not of being too much or not enough." She faced him. You helped me become that. You did it yourself, Cale corrected. I only gave you enough space to discover what was already there. They stood together in the clearing where their story had begun. Then Cale reached into his pocket and removed a small wooden box. It was old, the edges worn smooth by centuries. I found this in the Royal Archives. He opened it carefully. Inside rested a silver ring engraved with flames that appeared to move when light touched them. It belonged to a healer who served the Stormborn line 300 years ago. A wolf carrying fire in her veins, power capable of removing disease and corruption. Isis met Ares. Does that sound familiar? Her breath caught. My bloodline served your family. For generations, Cale confirmed, until a king 2 centuries ago betrayed his flamekeeper. He used her gift until nothing remained. When she died, her family swore never to serve the Stormborn throne again. His expression became solemn. The court dismissed the account as myth. I believe it was true. Your grandmother may have been attempting to restore that ancient bond to prove the Ashbourne line could trust mine again, and she died for it. She died fighting a plague created by the same family I later married into, Cale said. Old guilt weighted his voice. She tried to save my grandmother from a poison that should never have existed. When she failed, she pushed herself farther until the fire was gone. The Ashbourne family returned to hiding exiles and forgotten legends. He removed the ring from its box. But you came back. Cale looked at her with absolute sincerity. You found me, and you did more than restore what once existed. You transformed it into something equal. Then the Alpha King lowered himself onto one knee. Ares' heart stopped. I am not asking you to serve the throne, Cale said. I am not asking you to sacrifice yourself, carry every burden alone, or become anything except who you are. He held the ring toward her. I am asking you to stay, to build something new with me, to become my partner in every meaning of the word. His voice softened. Will you, Arya Ashbourne, Flamekeeper of the Northern Territories, accept this bond, not as my subject but as my equal, my mate, my choice? Arya stared at the ring, at the man kneeling before her, at the future he offered. It would not be perfect, it would not be easy, but it was real, and worth every battle. Yes. Her voice broke. Yes, I will stay. I will build this life with you. Yes to all of it. Cale placed the ring on her finger. Silver fire erupted, from both of them. Not violent, not consuming, celebrating. Living light danced around their bodies and wrapped them in warmth that felt like coming home. I love you, Cale said as he stood and drew her close. Your fire, your courage, your refusal to surrender even when any sensible wolf would. I love you too, Arya admitted, even when you are impossible, even when your decisions terrify me, even when... He kissed her. The words dissolved into a promise that required no language. When they separated, traces of silver flame remained across their skin. Ready to go home? Cale asked. Home. Arya tested the word. It still felt strange. It also felt right. Yes. Let us go home. The fortress had changed as well. During the 3 months following Seraphine's defeat, damaged halls and towers had been rebuilt, but Arya and Cale had not simply restored what existed before. They improved it. The dungeons received ventilation and humane conditions. Servants' quarters were heated. Training grounds gained new spaces for wolves unable to shift wolves who needed to discover different forms of strength. Arya suggested each change. Cale implemented them without question. The Flamekeeper returns. A guard called when they approached the gate. Make way. No command was necessary. Wolves naturally parted as Arya passed. They bowed, not because they feared her, because they respected her. For 3 months, Arya had worked to earn that trust. She taught young wolves how to control unusual abilities. She healed those injured during the invasion. She used her fire to expose corruption in political alliances and trade agreements. She became essential not through force, but through truth. Slowly, the court stopped seeing a dangerous exile. They began seeing what Chaol had recognized from the beginning. Lady Arya, their flamekeeper. A young wolf rushed toward her near the courtyard steps. The girl was perhaps 13, with shy eyes and nervous energy. "I have been practicing as you taught me," she said. "Watch." Lyra closed her eyes. Small blue flames appeared across her fingertips. Controlled, purposeful, beautiful. "That is wonderful," Arya said warmly. "Your control has improved so much. Your family must be proud." "They are." Lyra's face brightened. "My mother apologized for being afraid of me. She said fire is a gift, not a curse, just as you prove." The girl ran away. Tears stung Arya's eyes. "You are changing the world," Chaol said beside her. "One wolf at a time. I am only showing them what is possible. They should not have to hide the things that make them different." "That is revolutionary," Chaol observed. "In the best possible way." They climbed toward the throne room. Arya paused before entering. 3 months earlier she had stood at those doors trembling, certain she did not belong. Now she entered with her head high. The council was already in session. 8 loyal wolves who survived Seraphine's betrayal remained, joined by new advisers Arya and Chaol had chosen together. Every face welcomed her. "Flamekeeper," the eldest councillor bowed. "The king told us you returned to the northern woods. Did you discover what you sought?" "I found closure," Arya answered. "And something more." She lifted her hand. The silver ring caught the light. The room erupted. Howls, cheers, and genuine joy filled the chamber. Arya still found it difficult to believe such happiness could be meant for her. "When is the ceremony?" someone called. "Soon," Chaol answered, placing an arm around Arya's waist. "But we wanted the council to know first. You earned that right. The territories will lose their minds," the younger adviser said with a grin. "Half still call your partnership unnatural and dangerous. Now you intend to make it permanent." "Let them speak," Arya said calmly. "We have already proven ourselves. If certain wolves cannot accept that love and power may exist together, that limitation belongs to them, not to us." Chaol looked at her with open admiration. 3 months ago, you would have apologized for saying that. 3 months ago, I believed I needed permission to exist. Arya looked around the table at wolves who had become allies, friends, and pack. "I know better now. You taught me that belonging is not earned through perfection. It is built through honesty." "Wise words from our flamekeeper," the eldest councillor said. "This kingdom is fortunate to have you." "I am fortunate to have the kingdom," Arya corrected. "To have all of you. To receive the chance to become more than the curse my first pack named me." That night, Arya stood on her balcony beneath the stars. The same place where Chaol had first kissed her. The place where her fire recognized him as something essential. "Still awake?" Chaol asked as he joined her. "Only thinking." Arya raised one hand and watched silver flame dance across her fingers. "About my grandmother. About what she might think if she could see me now. She would be proud." Chaol did not hesitate. "Would she?" Arya watched the fire. "She spent her life proving her power was a gift. She died saving wolves who feared her. I am using the same flame to build something she never lived to see. That is exactly why she would be proud." Chaol pulled Arya close. "You are not repeating her mistakes. You are learning from them. You use your power, but you also set limits. You rest. You allow others to carry part of the weight. His voice softened. You were living the life she wanted and never claimed for herself. I hope so. Arya leaned against him. I hope, wherever she is, she knows the Ashbon line returned, that we are no longer hiding, that we discovered how to be powerful and happy at the same time. She knows, Chaos said. I am certain. They stood beneath starlight wrapped in silver fire. Arya allowed herself to feel everything. Joy, peace, the absolute certainty that she stood exactly where she belonged. She had been cast out for being too dangerous, too powerful, too broken to repair. Then she found a king who looked into her fire and saw beauty. A man who refused to let her burn alone. A love that did not tame her. It reminded her who she had always been. I was afraid to be seen, Arya said quietly. My entire life, I believed that if people saw all of me, they would reject me. Her voice tightened. And they did. My pack, my family, everyone I believed would love me without condition. Not everyone, Chaol reminded her. No, Arya turned inside his arms. Not you. You saw me at my most dangerous and uncontrolled. You never flinched. You never tried to contain me, diminish me, or make me smaller. Chaol touched his forehead to hers. You were always meant to burn, Arya. Only not alone. Not anymore. She kissed him and poured every feeling into it. Gratitude, love, hope, promise. When they parted, both glowed with silver light. At last, Arya understood what the prophecy had been trying to teach her. She never had to choose between power and belonging.